Welcome back to Only Talk Sports. And tonight we've got the big matchup between the Purdue Boilermakers and the Gonzaga Bulldogs in the Maui Tournament. It's going to be awesome. I cannot wait for this game. It's feast week in college basketball. You talk about the Champions Classic that happened last week. That was a lot of fun. I was actually live for the Kansas versus Kentucky game. It was a big matchup that Kansas was able to win, but Kentucky definitely showed that they have a lot of potential in that game. But now we have the Maui Tournament. You got the Battle for Atlantis coming up. All of these big tournaments are starting as Thanksgiving has come around the corner. I hope that everyone has a happy Thanksgiving week and a happy Thanksgiving on Thursday. It's going to be a lot of fun watching all these basketball games. It's going to be fun watching the football games as well in the NFL and in college football on Thursday and Friday all week. There's going to be a lot of sports action. It's going to be a fun week for sure. Definitely spend with family and friends, but also to watch some great sports action as well. The game's about to tip off. You see earlier in the Maui Tournament, it was 73-56. Tennessee beat Syracuse. That was a good win for the Volunteers. Dalton Necty, transfer from Northern Colorado, had a big performance in that one, but Tennessee pulled out that win over Syracuse. Now we've got Purdue and Gonzaga, the game everybody is waiting for right here, a top 15 matchup. You can basically almost say it's a top 10 matchup though, because Gonzaga, they are usually permanently thought of as a top 10 team, but Purdue, they win the tip, and why would they not? Because they've got Zach Edey, the reigning player of the year from last year, and Zach Edey starts the scoring off with a jump hook shot, 2-0. Purdue over Gonzaga. Michael Hawk, appreciate you for being here. He says, hey, Jeffrey, how are you doing today? We're going to see a rematch of what happened with Purdue and Gonzaga. It's going to be crazy, Michael. I can't wait for the game. No, you are hoping Purdue can win, but I do appreciate you for being here. Same to you. Awesome on the Thanksgiving week. I really do hope you have a great Thanksgiving for sure. Zach Edey down low again, and he scores again. 4-0. You can tell already there is a matchup disadvantage for Gonzaga. Graham Ike is not slowing down Zach Edey. If this continues and they can't double team him, then Zach Edey could put up 30 points in this game. We'll have to see if Gonzaga makes adjustments. But early on, Purdue up 4-0 over the Bulldogs. Gonzaga, their first big test before obviously later on in the year they're going to be in the West Coast Conference play. Not as many big matchups in that conference, especially with St. Mary's struggling. That's not going to be as good of a win for Gonzaga if they get it. Now you've got a missed three in the corner for the Bulldogs. Purdue has the ball. Braid Smith, he kicks over in the corner, trying to get a three-point shot, and there's no one there. Now you've got driving inside. Purdue to the rim, and Purdue scores again. 6-0. The Boilermakers starting out hot. Mark Few already looking concerned. Gonzaga a little rattled. Down low, Anton Watson, he kicks to Nolan Hickman for three, and Nolan Hickman settling things down for the Bulldogs. They needed that shot to fall because Purdue starting out 6-0. You do not want to fall behind early, but Hickman, he's a player that a lot of Bulldogs fans are hoping can improve this season. Zach Edey on the block with Graham Ike guard him. Can't wait to see this matchup throughout the game. Edey's been winning it early. Now you've got Trey Kaufman down low, and I think there is a foul on Anton Watson. RC, thank you for being here. Really appreciate it. Only Talk Sports at you on here early, bro. You don't say. Usually I do not live stream earlier games. I know I usually do the late ones, but this was a big matchup. I had the time, and I do appreciate you for being here, RC. It's going to be a good matchup. Edey down low, and Edey's shot just does not fall. If he had got that to go, he would have already had 6 quick points, but it's still 6-3. But again, appreciate you for being here, RC. I hope you have a great Thanksgiving week. Anton Watson down low, though, for Gonzaga. Rejected by Zach Edey. But then the Bulldogs get the ball back, and Graham Ike, he knocks down the triple. So we have a tie game, 6-6. Gonzaga responding early. Graham Ike had 18 points and 7 boards this season. That's about what he averaged in his final year at Wyoming. But it is a step up in competition. Edey down low, and he misses again. He's looking for a foul. He does not get it. Anton Watson with the board, bringing it up for the Bulldogs. He's driving on Trey Kaufman-Renn, and Anton Watson can't get the shot to fall. No foul. Fletcher Loyer down the floor. Loyer loses the basketball, but they do call a foul on Gonzaga. Unfortunately for the Bulldogs as well, Gonzaga has lost Steele Venters for the rest of the season. He was the Eastern Washington transfer, and he is out all year long because he hurt his knee. That's a tough loss. But Dusty Stromer, a guard for Gonzaga, he is on the floor. A lot of players on the Gonzaga team talk highly of him, and a lot of fans are expecting big things from him as well. Gonzaga still has a talented roster. No more Drew Timme. That's always tough to lose a player of his caliber. But Gonzaga has reloaded. Ryan Nembhard obviously transferring in from Creighton. His brother Andrew actually played for Gonzaga as well after he transferred from Florida. So both of the Nembhards have come through Spokane. Now you've got Gonzaga going down the floor after Purdue misses again, and Graham Ike with the flush. 8-6, and the Bulldogs take the lead after Purdue started out 6-0. Gonzaga's responded with an 8-0 run of their own. 16:30 to go in the first. EK with a quick 5. He's responded to Zach Edey's good start. Zach Edey's missed his last couple shots. Now you have going inside. Braden Smith kicks out to Trey Kaufman-Renn. Purdue fans are expecting big things from him. Improvement this season, but not that time. He airballs to 3. Michael Hawk says, hey, RC, how are you doing today? Michael also said, I would like to see Caitlin be with the Indiana Fever. Yeah, definitely. Caitlin Clark is a fantastic shooter. She would be a great fit there. RC says, what's going on, bro? Hanging in there, recovering gradually from the flu. I hope you get better, RC. Appreciate you for being here as always, and I do hope that you will recover. The flu is no joke. Driving into the lane, Gonzaga trying to get to the rim with a step back two, and it's good. 10-6, nice jumper there. The Bulldogs now have a 4-point lead. That was Ryan Nembhard with the shot. Ryan Nembhard is a really good shooter. Shot the basketball well at Creighton, and he's averaging 12 points, 4 boards, 4 assists last year. Creighton, he's putting up similar numbers this year. Edey with the ball to Mason Gillis, who's into the game as well for Purdue. Mason Gillis was a good player last year, another player that Purdue fans are looking for improvement from. Edey down low. Edey misses the shot. Edey has missed his last 3 attempts from the floor. Mason Gillis does get the rebound. Fletcher Lawyer for 3, and his shot's off the mark. That cost Purdue in the Fairleigh Dickinson game when they were not able to knock down threes. That's something that Purdue has to get better at, is shooting threes and then making them. The three-point game is so important in modern-day college basketball. Anton Watson at the top of the key. He was good last year for Gonzaga, and he looks a little bit better this year. He looks like he's improving. Both of these teams have a lot of guys that could get better this year. And Graham Ike, he scores over Zach Edey. That's a tough matchup for Graham Ike. He's only 6'10". Zach Edey 7'4", but he got the shot up over him, and it's 12-6. Bulldogs have a 6-point lead. They're on a 12-0 run. Edey with the ball. Trying to get it to somebody. Finds Braden Smith. Braden Smith loses the basketball to Dusty Stromer, Gonzaga, and the Bulldogs have the ball. What fight from Mark Few's squad, and we have the first media timeout. It looked like Purdue might run away with this thing at first because they had no stopping of Zach Edey. They were just allowing him to get whatever he wanted, but then it all changed once Gonzaga got that first 3 to fall from Nolan Hickman, and then Graham Ike got going. Graham Ike is probably one of the most underrated players in college basketball as well, because you talk about it, Wyoming. He was a beast, playing really good basketball, but then, unfortunately, he got hurt and missed an entire season of college basketball last year, did not play for the Wyoming Cowboys, so a lot of people forgot about him. He transfers to Gonzaga. Some people were wondering how he would recover from his injury, but he's looking really good to start for Gonzaga and a more than worthy replacement of Drew Timme. Even though it is very tough to completely replace all that Drew Timme brought to the program, because he was fantastic, but Graham Ike doing his best. Michael says, hope you get better, RC, for sure, and I'm watching the Purdue game also. I'm really glad you guys are both here. RC says, guess what, me too, I wouldn't have to travel as far to see Caitlin play at all. Definitely for sure. Michael says 8-0 run for the Zag, which has turned into a 12-0 run. Michael also is true, and are you in Iowa City, RC? Jackson, what's up? Only Talk Sports Nation. Appreciate you for being here, Jackson. Michael says Jeffrey's pronounced Hogue, not Hawk. Sorry about that. I didn't know for sure. Michael Hogue, appreciate you for being here again. Jackson, he says, how are you doing? That's what Michael says. But I'm sure you guys are doing really well. I mean, Thanksgiving week, got a big basketball game on. Basketball all day. I mean, this time of year is so underrated for college basketball fans because a lot of people only pay attention to basketball during March Madness. Some people only pay attention to the NBA during the playoffs, which I understand that a bit more. It's not that the regular season isn't good, but the playoffs do add an extra element. But when you talk about college basketball, March Madness, some people just watch that, and I don't blame them. It's fun. Single elimination tournament. You lose, you're out. You win, you advance. But these Thanksgiving week tournaments, and really even before that, and sometimes even a little after that, they're a lot of fun too. You get players seeing them be so happy in different locations. They get to go to Hawaii. They get to go to the Bahamas and a lot of other locations and play in these big tournaments with these other teams. It's a lot of fun for sure. And you get these matchups that you don't always get to see unless you're in March Madness, because when you're in, conference play, you're playing the same teams over and over that you play every year. But then when you have the Maui tournament, you get these Purdue Gonzaga games. You get, other games like, the Kansas Kentuckys that you see in the Champions Classic. So it's very cool for sure. I do think that these matchups, if you didn't have college football still on and you didn't have the NFL, at its peak time when the playoffs are starting to get kind of important in the playoff race, I think more people would watch these type of games. But still, a lot of people do. And this is going to be a great matchup that hopefully a lot of people will check out if they have the time. Michael says, I'm okay, Jackson, for a Monday. Yeah, Mondays aren't that great, but the Maui tournament is livening up our Monday and 3 days away from Thanksgiving. It's a fantastic time of year. Even as the weather gets colder, it's definitely still an awesome time of the year. So you've got Nembhard with the ball. Gonzaga with a 12-0 run and a 6-point lead, trying to build on it. Nolan Hickman with the ball, driving and takes a mid-range jumper, and he knocks it down silky smooth from Nolan Hickman. 14-6. Where is Purdue going to answer from? Who's going to take the big shots besides Zach Edey? Braden Smith, Fletcher Lawyer, they got to get involved. Fletcher Lawyer not on the floor right now. They got Ethan Morton in the game, another player from last year that Purdue fans are hoping can improve. Top of the key. Purdue trying to find somewhere to go with the ball. Nowhere is there an opening. Zach Edey on the block. They're trying to get to him. Watson guarding him. Edey backing him down. Edey over the shoulder, and his shot is short. Edey has missed his last 5 shot attempts. Gonzaga driving down the floor. Nembhard, and he turns it over. Good defense by the Boilermakers right there. Purdue driving inside. Braden Smith takes a jumper, and his shot is good. Purdue needed that one. 14-8. 13:40 to go in the first. That stops the 14-0 run by the Gonzaga Bulldogs. If you didn't have that early 6-0 run, it could have been a lot worse for Purdue, but they're still only down by 6. That is not bad at all. They just need a couple stops, and they're right back in it. EK for 3, and EK hits another one. Zach Edey's got to guard that. If Graham EK is going to step out there and knock down threes like that, Zach Edey has to show the ability to guard it. And that's going to be a big thing with Zach Edey when he goes to the next level in the NBA. He has to show that he can guard the outside and guard bigs that can shoot. Zach Edey trying to drive on EK. He goes up and over him, and that's a matchup that Zach Edey should win 85% of the time. That is a big height advantage for Edey. He turned shoulder on EK and got the shot to fall. 17-10. 7-point lead for Gonzaga. Some high-flying action early, some good offense, some good defense, but I would argue some better off, especially on the Gonzaga side. Nembhard driving into the lane, looking for someone to throw it to, gets it to Watson, and Anton Watson's three's off the mark, but EK with the board, and I think they might have called a foul on Gonzaga. Maybe EK pushed off a little bit to try to get that rebound. I think that might have been what the call was right there. RC's and Michael, I hope you enjoy your holiday weekends. Definitely got to take advantage of them. That's when family comes over, friends, and get some good turkey and whatever else. Maybe some people eat ham for Thanksgiving, some do for Christmas or vice versa, but it's a great time of year. 17-10, Gonzaga with the lead. Edey is taking a rest. He is on the sideline. That is a good chance for Gonzaga to dominate the paint, but they did take EK out as well. Ben Gregg is into the game for Gonzaga. He's another player that fans are looking to improve from for Gonzaga. There's a lot of guys on both these teams that were freshmen last year, sophomores, and they could still grow and get better in college basketball. Braden Smith looking for that sophomore jump. He drove into the lane and scored at 17-12. Down low, Ben Gregg going up strong, and he's fouled. Not disciplined defense right there by the Bulldogs. 17-12, 5-point lead. 12:09 to go in the first. But Braden Smith with a crossover dribble of the ages. That's a really good play right there. He got Huff in space. And when you have a bigger guy switched on a guard, it is very tough to slow him down. Braden Huff's first shot is up, and it's good. He's a guy that's playing really well for Gonzaga, averaging 21 points in his first 2 games. Granted, I will say that it is early in the season. Gonzaga did not play tough competition in their first 2 games. But to average 21 points, that is very impressive, especially with Venters out for the season. Huff is going to have to step up. He splits the free throw, so it's 18-12. And now they call a foul on Gonzaga. So I guess they went over and back trying to get that rebound attempt right there. Cannot blame them, though, because of the fact you want to be able to try to the ball back, be able to get a putback or be able to knock down a three, but it is what it is. You still cannot foul. You want to save your fouls for the second half. Purdue, at the top of the key, almost loses the ball. Braden Smith having a hard time finding an open man. Kicks to Gillis, but he turns it over, slips through his hands, and Ben Gregg for the dunk. 20-12. The Bulldogs have an 8-point lead. Gonzaga just looks faster than Purdue right now. And that's always been a problem when you talk about for Purdue throughout the last few years. They're a fairly quick team with some of their backcourt, like Jaden Ivey the one year, but they have a lot of bigs, and it's tough to be able to guard teams that are quicker like Gonzaga when you are a slower team. But Purdue not having a problem right there. They lost the ball, but they were able to get it back, and you have a three by Mason Gillis. Mason Gillis can't shoot. That one game last year for Purdue, he had like 27 points, but other than that, he only averaged like 6 points all year, but he's got to step up. Ben Gregg misses a three. So it's 20-15, 5-point game. Purdue trying to claw back in. Ethan Morton in the corner kicks to Mason Gillis, back to Braden Smith, the floor general, trying to find an open guy. Inside, Braden Smith with a turnaround two, and that's a good shot by Braden Smith. That is a very difficult shot. 20-17, 3-point game, 10:40 to go in the first. Braden Smith, a perfect 3-of-3 from the field, 6 points, keeping his Boilers in the game. A three by Ryan Nembhard, though, on the other end. What a shot. That's an NBA-level shot by Ryan Nembhard. Crossover dribble, taking a step-back three. That's tough. Gonzaga 4 of 8 from 3. Purdue 1 of 4. That's the difference so far. Gonzaga has 12 points from the outside. Braden Smith to Ethan Morton. Ethan Morton, not much of a scorer, but he is a glue guy for the Boilers. Inside to Caleb First, another sophomore. Caleb First shots off the mark. Gregg with the rebound. Gonzaga up 6, pushing it down the floor. 10 to go in the first. It's been a very fast-moving first half. Nolan Hickman trying to cross over Smith, and Hickman loses the ball out of bounds. Last touch by Purdue. 10:04 to go in the first, and I think it is a timeout on the floor. Michael says, Jeffrey, did you get a chance to see Jane Franklin's press conference today? I did not get to catch that, so I'm not sure exactly. I think I saw like trending a bit on Twitter, but I'm not 100% sure what was said there, so I will have to check it out unless you're able to offer it in the chat, Michael, but I do not know exactly what he said. RC said, Michael, nah, but I'm in the Midwest laughing out loud. Okay, RC. Midwest for sure has a lot of great sports. Stephen Cherry, appreciate you for being here. Big Ten basketball is stuck in the 80s until the conference adapts a more athletic style and open court style of play. No natties forthcoming. I completely agree, Stephen. And the thing is, when you talk about the fact that the Big Ten has not won a national championship since 2000 with Tom Izzo, and then obviously, again, Indiana all those times before. Other teams have won. Michigan's won. But the fact that Indiana, the big brand team that the Big Ten has, and they have not won since 1987. And you look at this year's Indiana team, it's mostly dominated by bigs. And you can win with bigs. Look at Kansas. Their best player is Hunter Dickinson, but they've got good guards too. Elmarco Jackson is going to be a stud. You talk about DeJuan Harris is a fantastic point guard. You cannot just have good centers and then your guards are weak. And to your point, Steven, a lot of teams in the Big Ten, even Purdue has been great. Purdue wins a lot of Big Ten games. They win a lot of early regular season games, but they make the tournament and then they play a team like St. Peter's, or they play a North Texas, or they play a Fairleigh Dickinson. They lose because those teams are faster and they just out-scrap them. They outrun them. And it's unfortunate for the Big Ten. And a lot of people are talking about it. I've seen on a lot of, the major networks, they're talking about the Big Ten have not won since 2000. And do they deserve to get all these teams in the tournament? Because they build good resumes in the regular season, and then they have like 8, 9, or sometimes 10 teams in the tournament, and then they're all out by the Sweet 16. So they're not justifying their case to be in the tournament when they lose early. So it is a great point, Stephen. And if they don't modernize the conference, you got USC, UCLA, Oregon, Washington coming. UCLA obviously being a brand school like Indiana with all the titles they won with John Wooden. But if they don't modernize their style of play, it's going to be very difficult for the Big Ten to win a title in the foreseeable future. Michael said, hey, Stephen, how are you doing today, sir? And I said, I agree with you on that, but running gun isn't always going to work. It doesn't always work. You have to have controlled running gun. It's like if you get a rebound, you see a chance to push the ball up the floor, take it, but you can't do it every single time. You got to know when to slow it down, when to speed it up. And some teams know how to do that. It's almost like Alabama at times last year was all run and gun in basketball, and they just did not know when to slow it down. So I think you have to have a moderation of both. Michael said, Tom Iron on conference. Zach. Michael says, how's your money going for you, Steven? Did you see Jane Fran press conference? I cannot wait to see that. It's going to be interesting. RC says Purdue is again being overrated. I mean, I feel like a reason a lot of people think they're overrated is just because they lose early in the tournament. It's just like the Big Ten in general. If Purdue could make a Final Four or an Elite Eight, no one would say that. It's because Purdue is every year ranked in the top 10 in college basketball, at least recently, since they've had Zach Edey and Travion Williams, like those teams, they've been ranked high. But they never justify in the tournament. They win in the regular season. I mean, last year, Purdue won the Big Ten by 3 games. Now, I don't think that the race would have been as far apart if Indiana didn't get some injuries last year to Xavier Johnson and all that. I do think Indiana would have been a lot closer to possibly winning, but Purdue was the best team in the Big Ten by far. But then they made the tournament, lost the first game. If they hadn't been able to advance, I don't think people would really be clamoring for Purdue being overrated. But I totally get your point, RC, because they do not advance. So it makes a lot of people think that they're just not a top team. They're a good team, but they just don't justify it come tournament time. Game's back on, though, and Ryan Nembhard misses a 3 for Gonzaga, and Purdue is the ball. Down by 6. Can they find the bottom of the net? Purdue needs a bucket to close this thing out, try to get back possibly in the lead before the first half is over. Purdue struggling at the top of the key, trying to get it to Edey, and they cannot. Finally do, though, but Gonzaga did a good job denying for a lot of that possession to shorten the shot clock. Fletcher Loyer driving in the lane, and Loyer is fouled. And see, a play like that right there, you have Fletcher Loyer driving the lane, and he did not blow by his man. And for Gonzaga, the man that was trying to guard him, he fouled. If he had not a foul and went straight up, I don't think Purdue scores on that play. So that's just a mistake by Gonzaga fouling right there, but you didn't need to foul because Fletcher Loyer was not blowing by his man. Michael says, anyway, Steven, Franklin was asked some of the people that were calling the press conference requests about Thanksgiving. Oh, that's pretty cool. That's awesome. It's definitely cool sometimes to not talk about sports, and talk about, some of the stuff you got going on for like holidays and junk. Stuff like that's pretty cool. RC says Zach Edey makes Luka Garza look like Nikola Jokic. I mean, true. Luka Garza was like 6'11". I think that's around what Jokic is, and Zach Edey 7'4". I mean, he's tall. He's a big guy. He's a little bit smaller than Yao Ming, but he is a very tall basketball player. 23-19 after Purdue, and Fletcher Loyer knocks down both free throws. We got a 4-point game. Gonzaga has had the lead for the most part of this first half outside of the beginning of the game when Purdue was up 6-0. Nolan Hickman driving in. Hickman inside, and he's good. Nolan Hickman looks improved. I can say that for sure. I mean, looking at him last year, he was a guy that he would score 4 or 5 points every now and then for the Bulldogs off the bench, but he is playing much better basketball, and that's going to be a huge asset for Mark Few's team. That was a really good play. Caleb First with the ball, kicks over to Loyer. In the corner, down low to Edey. Edey on the block. EK guarding him. Still that height advantage is so apparent. Edey, and his shot's off the mark. He has worked so hard on that jump hook shot, but just can't hit it every single time. Nolan Hickman on the other end. His three's off the mark. Caleb First with the board. 8:30 to go in the first. Up the floor for Purdue. You got Jones with a jumper, and Jones' shot's off the mark, and Greg brings down the board. Up the floor, Nolan Hickman to Anton Watson. Watson with a good spin move past a Purdue player, and Caleb First with the board after he misses the shot. Watson had everything but the finisher. That was a really good drive, but just could not get the shot to go. And then there's a foul on Gonzaga. When you give up a board, you got to let it go. That's a cheap foul there by Gonzaga, a foul they did not need. But I don't know if Gonzaga's in the bonus yet, and they are not. 6 fouls on Gonzaga, 1 on Purdue. So there are no free throws yet, but one more foul, and Purdue will be going to the line for the rest of the way. So they have to play discipline. Caleb First to Zach Edey. Edey kicks to Loyer. He thought about the 3, but he decides to not do it and try to get inside to Edey, but he overthrows Edey. How do you overthrow Zach Edey? He's 7'4", and still somehow Fletcher Loyer overthrew the ball over his head. Ben Gregg driving in the lane, and he looked like he was fouled on that play. They did not call a foul, but he was fouled, I think, on that drive. But then they're going to call another foul on Gonzaga for trying to reach in after they give up a board. You can't do that. Just back off and go back the other way. They just fouled again, second time in a row, and Purdue will have some free throws after the break, 25-19. Michael said the thing is that Gonzaga already has 3 fouls, for sure. I mean, Gonzaga's fouling a lot more than Purdue is. Steven says, hope everyone in the chat has a happy Thanksgiving. Hope you have a great and happy Thanksgiving as well, Steven. Can't believe it's already here. Felt like Halloween was just, a few days ago. It was almost a month ago. It's crazy. Time flies by during this time of year. So many great things going on in sports and people's lives as well, with family and friends coming for the holidays. Always a great time of year. RC said, only talk sports to Brola. What do you think? My Timberwolves are 9-3 and first in the Western Conference. We have not been first in 20 years. Well, I mean, I have not seen too much of the NBA yet because obviously you got college football, college basketball, and the NFL on. So trying to keep up with all of it at the same time. That's what we do here at Only Talk Sports, and appreciate you guys again for being here. But RC, I think that the Timberwolves are doing really good. Anthony Edwards, it just looks like he's finally, found, I wouldn't say his role because he's not a role player. He's a star, but he's finding a way to be productive in that role. Being the star player, not knowing when he has to go, when it's his time to shine, and versus when to get the others involved. And that's just growing up. That's just being in the NBA for multiple years now. I mean, Anthony Edwards is still a very young player. He's like 22 still, 21, 22. He's not old at all. He's been in the league for 3 years now. And I just think that he's maturing. He's just getting better at knowing what he's got to do to help his team win games. When he has to score, when he has to pass, when he has to do what he has to do. And I think as well, you talk about last year, Towns missed most of the season. Towns is playing well. Rudy Gobert's playing well. He obviously had the whole Rudy Gobert, Draymond Green thing that happened. I think it was last week. I did see that, and that was crazy. I mean, Draymond Green, Rudy Gobert really got into it there, and was a lot more involved as well with Klay Thompson, Jay McDaniels. But still, even that's not putting a damper on what the Timberwolves are doing. It's really impressive, RC, and I do think that they're going to have a good year, especially if Towns stays injury-free. If Karl Anthony Towns can stay healthy and provide his role, and Gobert's doing what he's doing on defense, and Anthony Edwards keeps playing well, I think they're going to be really good. And I don't know if they'll stay number one in the West the entire time, but there is a shot that they can, because you look at the Lakers, they're struggling. The Suns have been injury prone to start the year, and they've had some struggles. The Clippers, ever since they added James Harden, they can't win hardly. They're really struggling. So, and the Warriors, they haven't really just seemed to do as well without Jordan Poole being that extra splash brother, not shooting the ball as well. So definitely it could be the Timberwolves to lose if they keep this up so early in the year, and they could fall apart with injuries or some other team steps up, but it is very impressive. Michael says fouls are starting to mount on the Zags. That normally happens when you're playing Purdue. It is very hard not to foul Purdue. Such a big team. Michael says, Jeffrey, there is no such thing as over the back. Well, it technically is. It is a foul by definition, and even commentators use it. If you go over someone's back and you foul on a rebound, it is technically called that, but I do see a lot of people say that it isn't real, but it is a foul nonetheless, and that is what Gonzaga has done to Purdue several times. But Purdue misses both free throws. You got to hit it. Gonzaga at the line. Gonzaga down the floor. What a block by Zach Edey. Unbelievable block by Edey. I thought there was going to be a foul. I thought they were going to be going to the line, but that was a clean block. Might have gone with a little bit of the body, but that was a really impressive play by Edey. Fantastic. Now you got Nembhard shooting the ball, and his shot's way off the mark, but it was desperation, though. And it was a desperation shot. 7:20 to go in the first. But let's see. Greg down the floor. Man, how did Edey avoid that? How did Edey avoid a foul? It was all clean, but somehow he was able to avoid really getting much with the body there. Might have got him a little bit, but Edey's so big, it's hard not to. But that was a fantastic play by Edey. They got to get him involved more in the offense, though. Braden Smith in the mid-range, and he shoots and he scores. Basically, the only offense for Purdue right now is Braden Smith in the mid-range, knocking down jumpers, and then Zach Edey if they can get it to him on the block. Everyone else is really struggling right now. That cannot persist for Purdue. They need more offense from other players. Gonzaga, Dusty Stromer for three. His shot's off the mark. Trey Kaufman-Renn tips it to another Purdue player, and they're going down the floor. Miles Colvin's into the game for the Blores. He's another freshman for Purdue that a lot of fans are hoping will have a really successful freshman season. Down the floor, Nembhard to EK, and EK lost the basketball. He had a step on Zach Edey. If he had been able to corral that in, he could have possibly been able to score there, but he could not maintain possession of the ball. He loses it out of bounds. So it's a turnover for the Gonzaga Bulldogs. 6:35 to go in the first, 25-21. But Zach Edey started the game 2-2 from the 40s, 1 of 7 cents. So whether it's just been Gonzaga putting enough pressure on to make him miss, or Edey just missing some shots, he has been cold from the field. Braden Smith driving again, and Braden Smith misses, and the ball is out of bounds off of Trey Kaufman-Renn of Purdue. So it will be Gonzaga basketball. I appreciate the aggressiveness of Braden Smith. He's realizing that his teammates are not doing a good job right now of scoring the basketball, even when he's setting them up. So he's taking matters into his own hands, and he's trying to score, but that time might have been a little too overzealous. Nolan Hickman kicks over to Huff for three, and Huff shots off the mark. Had a great look from the outside, just could not get it to fall. And they're showing that Gonzaga is 225 and 24 since 2016. They do not lose very often. Definitely helps to be in the West Coast Conference. If Gonzaga was in the Big 12, they would lose more often, which a lot of people speculate they could go to the Big 12. We'll have to see if that ever happens or not. But Purdue stepped out of bounds. That was a mistake by Miles Colvin. So now you got Gonzaga with the ball again. Hickman driving into the lane, going up for two. His shot's off the mark, but I think this time they call a foul on Purdue. So that is only their second foul of the game. Stevens says, I love the Maui Classic every year. The Maui Tournament is one of the best tournaments. Battle for Atlantis usually has some good games, some good teams in that one. And then you also talk about, the Phil Knight Invitational with Nike. Those are some good tournaments that they've had. But the Maui Tournament, the atmosphere, that one year that they couldn't play it in Hawaii and they had to play it in Asheville, it just didn't have that same vibe. I know why they had to do it, though. But still, when you're playing in Hawaii and seeing like the sights between like the TV timeouts, it's really cool to see the players having so much fun. Huff for three, 28-21, and it helps to have great basketball games as well. Awesome matchups and teams here. These are going to be some great games for the rest of Feast Week. 28-21, Braden Smith driving in the lane, kicks in the corner to Miles Colvin. His shot's off the mark. Not a bad look for the freshman. Couldn't get it to fall. Nembhard slowing it down. And that is an experienced play by Nembhard. He's driving into the lane. Nembhard's blocked by Edey. Edey blocked it into the fourth row. He said, get that shot out of here. Like Nembhard had a step, but Edey can close ground with that length. What a block. 28-21, though. The Zags still lead by 7. Purdue's offense is really struggling in this game. Their defense hasn't been horrible, but their offense just can't get going. If Edey had to hit a few more of his shots, they'd be right in this thing. Still only down 7, though. 4:50 to go in the first. Nembhard top of the key. EK setting the ball screen. Off the screen in the mid-range. Nembhard to the rim. What a blow-by Braden Smith. No contest. 30-21. 4:40 to go in the first. What a play by Nembhard, showing that he is way more than just a shooter. He can get to the rim. Nembhard was 7. Edey on the block. Purdue down 9, needing a bucket. And Edey misses the shot, but he's fouled by EK. And at this point, if you're Purdue, when you're down like this, that might be your best option. You have to get Gonzaga in foul trouble, so just get it to Edey and try to have him draw fouls, even if he doesn't always score. But you just cannot continue to keep trying to shoot jumpers and they're not falling. You have to be able to channel, your basketball team in different areas. And whether that's getting the ball to Edey down low and having him draw fouls, if that's your game plan, if it's working, do that. If it's Braden Smith getting off a ball screen, taking jumpers, and he's knocking them all down like Chris Paul in the NBA, do that. If it's Miles Colvin hitting jumpers in the corner, do that. But if those plays aren't working, and even Edey's struggling to score, just get him on the block and hope he gets fouled. It sometimes works, and it worked on that play. 30-23, 4:20 to go in the first, 7-point game. Nembhard with the basketball. He almost loses it, and he's fouled. He's fouled by Jones of Purdue, number 55 on that play. He's like, I didn't foul there, but I do think he did. I mean, it was close. You can make an argument that he got all ball there, but I think he might have got him a bit across the front. I mean, it's very tough not to foul sometimes in college basketball. I mean, you have to be able to stay straight up, keep your hands up, and reach in and try to get all ball, but it's tough. Nembhard to Huff. Huff thought about the three. He did not take it. He tried to drive in the lane. EK can't save it for him, and Purdue with the turnover. Purdue down 7 with some momentum. What a pass by Smith to Jones in the corner. Back to Braden Smith. Jones couldn't do anything with it. Braden Smith looking back to Matt Painter trying to get the play call. 3:50 to go. No one's setting the ball screen. Now Edey finally comes up with 10 seconds. Smith in the lane. Thought about the mid-range. Kicks to Edey down low. And another foul on EK. So that's the second on-gram EK in the last minute. And see, that's what I'm saying. That is the benefit of Purdue. That's the benefit of having Zach Edey. You can get the opposing team in foul trouble just by driving into the lane and getting to the free throw line. Now EK has 2 fouls. And Gonzaga is probably going to have to sit him for the rest of the half. Now Purdue can claw back into this game by keep pounding it inside to Zach Edey and hoping that he can score. Michael says Brady needs to not rifle pass so hard. That's a good point, Michael. I agree with that. But, I mean, I would say it's because he's young. He is a sophomore now, but he is still on the younger side in college basketball. But it does seem like, to your point, that Purdue's players are really struggling to be able to catch some of his passes. It seems like they are going a bit too fast, and he is just not being able to get the ball to him with them able to catch it. It's kind of like in football how some quarterbacks rifle the passes in there and the balls go through their hands. Like in the Washington-Oregon State games past week, granted, it was raining, so it made it worse, but Penix, he throws the ball hard, and the ball was going through all of his receivers' hands because it was wet. Obviously, basketball is a different thing, and there's no rain because you're indoors, but if you're seeing a common theme that your teammates are struggling to catch your passes, you do have to lighten up on them a bit. The good thing about throwing the passes hard, though, is because of the fact that it does allow, your team to get the ball before the opposing defense really gets set. So, like, if you have a guy who's, like, rotating over and you pass the ball to a guy really quick and then he's able to make a play on it before the guy's set on defense, that's why rifling the pass helps. But you got to know your personnel, especially if you're passing to a big. You have to throw it a little bit slower because their hands might not be as good. I mean, it was like one play, Fletcher Loyer threw the ball over Zach Edey's head. I don't know how you do that because Zach Edey is 7'4" with like a 9-foot wingspan, like 8'7", 8'9", whatever it is. It's very tall. I mean, he has got a very big wingspan, standing height, might be over 9 feet. He is tall, and he somehow overthrew him. I know you're wanting to keep the ball, away from the opponent, but still, you cannot overthrow Zach Edey. It's unbelievable. Michael says Caleb First is a junior. So he's been there for 2 years now. I thought he was a sophomore. I knew that he was in, I guess he was in the 2021 class, and I thought he was in the 2022. But if Caleb First is a junior, he has not developed, I don't think, as much as Purdue fans were expecting, though. Because that means Trey Kaufman's a junior as well. They were both in the same class. Well, that's wild. Maybe it's because they've had guys like Travion Williams and Zach Edey ahead of them that they haven't really moved up. But, I mean, they're also kind of like forwards. Like, they play the 4. They don't play the 5. So, Caleb First still trying to find his way in college basketball. Thanks for that, Michael. I think you are right. He is a junior now that I think about it. Because I remember Archie was recruiting him. That's right. And Archie was still in Indiana in 2021. I should have known that. I remember that now. So, Caleb First and Trey Kaufman-Renn have both struggled to really improve over the years in college. But, I mean, I do believe Trey Kaufman's doing a bit better. It seems like he's playing more than Caleb First. But that's why they've been in college already that long. Time flies. Michael, so get a chance, watch Jeffrey. He talks to reporters about Thanksgiving. I definitely will appreciate that, Michael. Jeffrey, did you see the IU game yesterday and how bad Indiana looked? Yes, Michael. Indiana did not play well at all. They're playing right now, I think, against Louisville. I have to check the score when this game goes to half. But, yes, Indiana really struggled. They just, again, do not have enough guards. They're playing still an old school-style basketball, even though they have bigs that can shoot like Khalil Ware, McKenzie, and Baco. But, yeah, Indiana has a lot to work on. If they don't improve, they could have a long season. But we'll have to see. Zach Edey split the free throws, so it's 30-24. Nembhard for 3. His shot is up, and it is off the mark, and Edey has the rebound. Once the ball's missed, Edey is usually there to get the board. Takes up a lot of space down low. It's very hard for the other team to get offensive rebounds. So you got Purdue down 6, trying to cut into this lead before the half with no EK in the game. Greg trying to guard Edey. Greg, he did enough to make Edey miss the shot. I thought Greg was going to foul when he kind of reached a bit, but the referees did not call a foul. Nembhard with the ball. Top of the key, driving into the lane. He finds Stromer in the corner for a 3 that almost goes in, does go in. How did that go in? That almost looked like Kawhi Leonard's 3 in the 2019 NBA playoffs. It hit the front of the rim, hit the other side of the rim, and then it went in. I thought that it was not going to go. But Dusty Stromer, sometimes it's better to be lucky than good. Edey down low, Edey up and in. 33-26. Zach Edey finally gets another shot to fall. He's only 4 of 11 from the field, which is a bad percentage for him. Usually he's shooting 70% from the field in a game. He's only shooting 40%. He finally gets that shot to fall. Greg for 3. It's off the mark. Jones with the board. 33-26, 7-point game. Purdue driving. Jones is nowhere to go. Kicks to Edey, though, down low, and Edey's fouled. I mean, it is a foul fest for Gonzaga. They're in the bonus plus. Purdue only has 3 fouls, and Gonzaga is in the bonus plus. Every single time a team plays Purdue, it is almost impossible to not foul Zach Edey. When he gets the ball in the block and he's driving in, it's almost game over. Edey at the line, the 7'4" senior from Toronto, Ontario. His first free throw is up and good. I mean, he's got 12 points, so his stats, most people he's on track to get about 25, so he's doing a good job in that regard. But still, to be shooting under 40% from the field is wild for Zach Edey. I would say that's credit to Gonzaga, and it does seem like a bit that they have influenced the way he's been playing, but I also believe he's just missed a few of them. Some of them have just been chippies that he has not been able to make. But he does hit both free throws there. So he's 5 of 6 at the line. You can tell he's really worked hard at the free throw strike to get better. Because since he's fouled so much, if you're able to knock in those free throws, that really helps. 33-28. Ben Gregg to Stromer in the corner, and Stromer's 3 almost went in again, but it did not. Now you've got Huff down low. Huff kicks it back out to Nembhard, to Hickman. Nolan Hickman driving into the paint with a step back 2, and his shot is no good. Stromer with the board. Man, they've given up 2 offensive rebounds. Hickman for 3, and his shot's off the mark. And Gonzaga with another offensive rebound, but they might have called, well, Michael said no, there's no such thing as over and back, but they call a foul on the rebound there. 33-28, 1:15 to go in the first. So it's Purdue basketball. Gonzaga is going to foul out of this game if this continues. Purdue is living at the line. Steven says UConn took it to the Hoosiers yesterday. I mean, it just shows you how far Indiana still has to go to get back to where they want to be at the top of college basketball. I mean, UConn won a title last year, lost some good players like Adama Sanogo, Jordan Hawkins to the NBA, and then they bring in a guy like Cam Spencer from Rutgers through the portal. Yeah, they got Donovan Klingman back. They got a really good team, and it just shows that Indiana's not there yet. Indiana can get there. They're pretty good last year. We lost Trace Jackson-Davis, Race Thompson, Miller Kopp. So they got a lot to work on to get back to the elite of college basketball. Mike Woodson trying his best, but it does not look like this is the year, but still too early to make a judgment call. 33-30. 1 to go in the first. After Zach Edey hits 2 more free throws. So basically, to re-update, Purdue's in this game because of the free throw line, Zach Edey, and Braden Smith. That's about it. Down low, Dusty Stromer for 2. What a pass from Nembhard at the top of the key. 35-30. Nembhard is a fantastic point guard. Braden Smith trying to make a move, gets a ball screen. Now he's cut off by Gregg, and Smith loses the ball out of bounds. What good defense by Ben Gregg. 38 seconds to go in the first. And the Gonzaga fans, they are very happy with their team right now and how well they are playing on the defensive side of the ball, except for the fouling. If they could defend without fouling, which against Zach Edey is almost impossible, they'd be in great shape. They're still doing really well. 33 seconds left, and Gonzaga takes the use it or lose it timeout. Michael says that they did, Steve. I'm surprised that UConn didn't win by 30. Indiana's going to have a long season. I mean, they could. I think Indiana has too much talent to be a horrible team this year, but you never know. They might be. Because you look at the fact that Mackenzie Mbako, their 5-star recruit they got, that they flipped from Duke after he decommitted and they got over Kansas. He's not having a good start to the year, but he could get better. Khalil Ware's playing well, but for the most part, he does struggle against some of the other bigs that he plays against. There's just so many teams in college basketball that have really good centers now that it's very hard for him to be able to differentiate himself. He is a pretty good shooter, but still kind of tough. But it's going to be interesting to see if Indiana has a bad season or not. I think it's possible they could turn it around, but we'll have to see. Only time will tell. Just like with this game, only time will tell to see whether Gonzaga or Purdue wins. Now they're showing the Balfour Atlantis tournament. Got some good matches starting on Wednesday. Memphis, Michigan, Stanford, Arkansas, Texas Tech, Villanova, Northern Iowa, North Carolina. It doesn't seem like the Balfour Atlantis has as many of the headline teams. The Maui tournament sure does, though. It's going to be a great tournament. See who wins. Whoever wins is going to have some great wins on the resume. Michael says, RC, I don't think they're overrated, talking about Purdue. I don't think, again, Purdue's overrated. I just feel like they need to advance far in the tournament for people to take the overrated label away. If they can do that, then for sure, no one will be calling them that anymore. 35-30, 20 seconds left. Nolan Hickman at the top of the key. Gets a ball screen from Ben Gregg. Nowhere to go. Edey guarding Hickman. How's this going to turn out? Hickman blowing by Zach Edey, and Zach Edey affected the shot. That's a good play by Edey. He's guarding a NBA level athlete right there. Jones for three. His shot's off the mark. Hickman with the ball, and that is the end of the first half. 35-30. The Bulldogs lead the Boilers. And Purdue definitely lived at the free throw line. Shot a good percentage at the free throw line. Zach Edey definitely improving there at the stripe. Gonzaga shot the ball pretty well from the three-point line, especially at first. They kind of faltered a bit as the half went along, shooting from the outside. But Gonzaga holds a 5-point lead, and they're talking to Mark Few right now. And I'm sure he's telling the reporter that they got to stop fouling if they can, because that's the only thing keeping Purdue in the game. Brady Smith had a couple nice jumpers, but Purdue's field goal percentage right now is abysmal. They got to shoot the ball better. RC says, why don't they win the biggest games? To respond to Michael, I mean, that's the key. You got to win when it counts. Michael says, can you say it about Duke and North Carolina also? They don't win it every year. Also think that match has hurt Purdue. Well, the other part that has to do with the overrated, Michael, is because Purdue's never won a title. I know that's for a lot of people an argument that shouldn't be used, but Duke, Kansas, North Carolina, even Indiana, as bad as they've been for so long, they all got the hardware. They got the banners. And you talk about Purdue, they don't. So people are expecting Purdue, because they're ranked number 2 and number 3 and all that in the preseason, to be able to go out there and maybe get a title or go to the Final Four. And since they're not doing it, then I feel like that's a big reason what holds people back in talking about, Purdue being an elite team. Right now, they're showing in the Empire Classic consolation game, Indiana and Louisville, the highlights of that game. So as we speak, Indiana and Purdue both playing at the same time. Looks like Louisville's doing a good job driving into the lane. That's definitely something that Indiana has struggled with, is being able to defend the three-point line and to be able to defend the dribble drive action. That's been a struggle for the Hoosiers. But Indiana right now, 36-33 on Louisville early second half. That will be a game to monitor for sure. Now they're showing the Tennessee-Syracuse highlights. Definitely Dalton Neck saved the day for Tennessee, because Syracuse was hanging tough with him, but Dalton Neck put up a lot of points. Vescovy played well. Tennessee looks pretty good, but as always, Tennessee's another team that people are just waiting for them to be able to advance far in the tournament. We'll have to see what they do. Michael says, and RC, that said, though, it's Fran on the hot seat this year, and also they're going to get out of the first round. Well, when you talk about Iowa and Fran McCaffrey, that's a team that never goes far in the tournament. I remember the year that Dick Vitale predicted they would go to the Final Four, and a lot of people did, because they won the Big Ten tournament, and then they just completely fell flat. They did not advance anywhere, and Iowa has lost a lot of people's, I wouldn't say, I guess, like respect or people just thinking that they're horrible. They're still, a decent program, and Fran McCaffrey usually gets them to the tournament, but you can't lose in the first round every year, especially when you've had guys like Keegan and Chris Murray, and you've had Luka Garza. Those are some really good players that went through your program that you just didn't do anything with, at least when it comes to the tournament. So it's crazy. Michael says Purdue perimeter defense needs to improve. Yes. Gonzaga is getting too many open shots. And if Gonzaga had hit more of their open shots, they'd be up by more. Purdue didn't go to the line as much. Gonzaga will be up by more. But Purdue just is a step slow on defense. And I think it's because Gonzaga is such a quick team. Gonzaga is a much quicker team than Purdue is. You see it in the half court. Guys like Ryan Nembhard, Nolan Hickman, they can drive in the lane. They can shoot the jump shots. And guys like Brady Smith, who have sneaky speed, Fletcher Loyer, they're not as quick. That's why Fletcher Loyer hasn't been in the game that much, because he's been outmatched. But to go back to your question, Michael, I don't really think Fran's necessarily on the hot seat, but if he keeps losing early, I think that will eventually happen. He's been there so long, and long tenured coaches, it's harder for them to get on the hot seat. It took Mike Bray forever for him to finally not be at Notre Dame, even though they were really struggling. Jeff Petruso, thanks for stopping by. It's his first time listening to your live stream commentary. Loving it so far. Thank you. Well, thank you for being here. Really appreciate it. Always great to see newcomers. And definitely, I'm glad that you are enjoying the live stream. I've live streamed the Champions Classic last week. I try to do games every now and then. Definitely can't do them all the time, but especially with it being the holiday week with Thanksgiving. It's going to be hard to really do some of these big matchups, but I will definitely be live streaming more big basketball games in the future. Don't know when I'll be doing it next. It always kind of depends on my schedule, but always, put our streams out there usually a couple hours early to let people know that I'm going live. But I do appreciate you for being here, and I definitely will be doing more live streams in the future. Michael says Purdue in the bonus, that definitely saved their first half, because if they didn't have the success that they had at the free throw line, they'd be down probably by double digits. Steven says Purdue is like a basketball version of Utah in football, always well coached and a tough out. That is true, but they have a ceiling. And that's what you mean by that, Steven, because Utah is not a program that no one really ever believes is going to be able to win a national title. I mean, you can never say never, but that's why Urban Meyer left Utah. He went to a bigger program. And Kyle Whittingham has done an unbelievable job at Utah. And the fact they've won several Pac-12s, and they've been competitive against the best teams in that conference. But Oregon and USC, which obviously are going to the Big Ten, that's why Utah isn't, because the Big Ten's taking the big brands, they have the ceiling, whereas Utah doesn't. Whittingham will probably always have Utah being a good team, as long as he keeps his level of intensity that he has. But it's just going to be very difficult for them to ever get that next level. And it seems like, to your point, Purdue's like that. Purdue is a program that does really well in the regular season. They can win a lot of games, especially when they are at home. They are really hard to beat. Their home crowd, it's underrated. I will say that. Purdue's home crowd is a very underrated atmosphere because of the fact a lot of people talk about, Cameron Indoor. They talk about Dean Smith Center. They talk about Allen Fieldhouse, all those big ones. Rupp Arena, Assembly Hall. But Purdue's kind of floats under the radar. Mackey Arena is a tough place to play, and they are very tough to beat. And they always have well-coached and disciplined players, but they can't win at all. They can't go as far as these other teams go. So that's interesting for sure. It's a crazy dynamic, and we'll have to see if Purdue can overcome that, because I think it is easier to overcome that in basketball than it is in football. You look at Villanova. Jay Wright won 2 national titles, and I never really thought they had the most talent. They did have talent, but they never had, some of the biggest stars, some of the highest rated recruits, and they still won 2 titles. So it's going to be interesting if Painter can ever achieve it. Michael said, my thing also with Purdue is that they were timid just like IU was last year when they had open shots and didn't take them. 100%. And when I'm watching this team, it feels like Purdue and Indiana are a lot more similar than people think. It's just Purdue has the 7'4" center and Indiana doesn't. Because Indiana last year would not shoot the basketball. Really, ever since Tom Crean. Basically, we'll just go back 7 years ago. Ever since Tom Crean was fired at Indiana, they have not shot the ball well. And that's hurt Indiana. Even when they had a guy like Trace Jackson Davis that can win them so many games, they never been able to shoot the ball well. They're not shooting it well this year. And Purdue, they've had guys in the past like Ryan Klein, Dakota Mathias, Carson Edwards, even good shooters. But the problem is that they didn't have the big dominant center like they do now. Edey's more dominant than Harms and Haas ever were. But they don't have the guards now. It's like if Purdue had a shooter like Ron Klein or Dakota Mathias and a Carson Edwards at point guard with, and include Jay Ivey. If you have Jay Ivey as well, and then you have Zach Edey, man, that would be a fantastic Purdue team. It really would, because you'd have the spacing, you'd have the shooters, then you'd have the center that's dominant. They'd be really good. But they don't have that. They don't have those guards they had in the past. And that's what's keeping Purdue from being at the top of the sport. And then you look at Gonzaga. A lot of people criticize Gonzaga because they haven't won a title. Obviously, Mark Few's gotten close. Mark Few has gotten really close several times, but it has not happened. They've been in the national championship game. People thought they were going to beat Baylor. I mean, they were undefeated. They'd have been the first undefeated team to win it all since Indiana in 1976, back when Indiana was fantastic. But Gonzaga lost. And that's kept a lot of people from really saying Gonzaga is a part of the elite. A lot of people think they are because they're always here. They're always winning games. They're always advancing in the tournament. Mark Few's done an incredible job lifting up a program like Gonzaga that before he was there, no one really ever talked about. But since they can't win that title, just like with Purdue with Matt Painter, it keeps a lot of people from thinking that, they're part of the elite. So it's crazy. Michael said, and I have to say it's the first time I've seen Purdue play this year, Jeffrey. Yeah, for sure. Because you talk about a lot of teams like Indiana, Purdue, they play in North Carolina and Kentucky, when they play all these small opponents at first, a lot of people don't watch the games. I mean, diehard fans are just people that want to DVR it or see it live, and they just have the time and they care more about basketball than other sports. They'll watch. But it's when you start having games like this, then people start tuning into basketball. It's going to be harder later in the week when you got the NFL and college football on, because a lot of people are going to be watching that. And I don't blame them, especially with college football, because it's almost over. I mean, college football is a precious thing. It's only around from, late August when week 0 to, early January in the national championship game. It's not around that often. And it's a big deal for a lot of people. And some people like college football better than college basketball. Like I said, they don't watch it except for March Madness. Some don't watch it at all. But for people that like both, and I definitely like basketball and football, it's hard to balance your time. And like right now, there's no football on, so it's a big deal for these games for sure. Michael said, RC, a lot of basketball left to play, and they're off to a good start. Yeah, talking about, I guess, with Purdue. I mean, Purdue and Gonzaga are both really good teams. And I mean, it's a great matchup because of the fact that you have the two teams that a lot of, people that aren't really fans of either team just don't think that they're part of the elite. And I mean, getting a big win, even though it's not in the tournament, but still getting a big win early in the season, it does make both teams look really good. Will ND, appreciate you for being here. Says, hey, Jeffrey, sorry, Michael, I think Purdue's a good team, but I don't think they will pull Virginia. They needed to add more shooters in the portal. Points in the paint are enough to win in March. Yeah, I mean, it would be crazy, Will, if Purdue did, what Virginia did, and then the next year they won the whole thing, after losing the 16 seed. That'd be crazy. That would be unbelievable if that happened. But to your point, Will, they didn't get the shooters. I mean, they were looking at Nigel Pack, and Nigel Pack went to Miami, 2 years ago. So that's part of the problem. Guys like that are not going to Purdue. Jay Ivey was under-recruited. He was a 4-star recruit that was ranked in the 110th in the country. And some I think might have had him in the 90s in the recruiting rankings. And Purdue got him. Even Indiana didn't recruit him, which was unbelievable. But he went to Purdue, and it's like Purdue just doesn't get players like that very often. Even Jay Ivey wasn't the greatest shooter. He was just an athlete, fantastic athlete. He's gotten better at shooting, but he was a fantastic athlete in college. But Purdue doesn't get those type players. And I think a lot of schools have more NIL than Purdue. I don't really know what Purdue's NIL situation, but that makes a difference as well. Michael says, hey, Will, how are you doing today, sir? You might be right, but a lot of basketball. But I do really appreciate it so much that you're here, Will and Michael. Michael says, Ron Jerry's called a push, not over the back. Don't maybe tee you up laughing aloud. I've always called it over the back. I don't know, but that's funny, Michael. I mean, a push. Okay, it's a push foul. That's funny. Michael says, nice block by Zach Edey. He's had so many great blocks throughout his career at Purdue. Crazy. Will says, I'm doing well. Jeffrey's ahead of me using the ESPN app. Usually everyone else is ahead of me. So, hey, I'm actually ahead of someone for the first time. That's crazy, Will. Michael says, I'm watching the game on my Fire State, and he is ahead of me also. When are you going to go home for Thanksgiving, Will? That is unbelievable. I'm usually not ahead of people. That's awesome. That's crazy. Michael says, rare for Edey to be 3 of 9. Yeah, he's 4 of 12, 4 of 11, 4 of 12 now. I mean, like I said, if that is pertained until, the rest of the game, if he ends up 8 of 24 from the field, Gonzaga's probably going to win unless Purdue's going to the line a lot more. But it is definitely rare. Will said, I'm going home Wednesday night. That's awesome, Will. Hope you have a great time with your family during Thanksgiving. Michael says, cool. So what is the one thing your mom or grandma makes that everybody will fight to the death for, Will? Well, I mean, if somebody, like grandma or your mom makes some food that's that good that everybody wants it, you got to make enough. You got to make enough, especially that one thing, because you don't want that to happen. Michael said, Jeffrey, you get a chance, you're going to talk about how I pathetic is. Definitely. I've talked about it earlier. I know you wrote this probably before I started talking about it. I'm way behind in the comments. Really appreciate you guys for chiming in so much. Really appreciate it. But definitely, yes, IU has to get a lot better. Steven says Indiana is beating Louisville right now. Yes, they are. They're up 46-39 in the second half. I know Louisville struggled, but if Indiana can get a win over Louisville, that would be big for them. They need a win that, even if it's not going to necessarily be a big resume-boosting win, Indiana needs momentum. They really struggled against UConn. They have the talent. But they just need to settle down and, get some things going on, in the positive direction and start having some of their guys, that have potential like McKenzie and Baco to really step up and start contributing it to the offense, because that has not been happening at all whatsoever. Michael says something tells me Purdue will get going in the second half, especially if Gonzaga fouls out. I mean, several of their guys are in foul trouble, and that will definitely help. Like Michael said, next comment, getting Gonzaga foul trouble is helping Purdue. If like a guy like EK fouls out, that will help Edey out late in the game. Like if Purdue's down by like 7 and there's like 5 minutes left, there's still time. And there's a lot of guys with 2 fouls. RC says, only tall sport, Juju Watt from USC, number 1 recruit, is absolutely amazing at basketball. Effortless style of play. Shots at this wave sound like perfect harmony when she scores. Yes, women's basketball is exploding. I mean, more people are watching it. More people watching the WNBA. There's a lot of good players. I mean, they play fundamental basketball. Caitlin Clark, her shooting is insane. And so many, women's basketball players. I mean, I've seen some of the games this year, a couple of them. They're really, really good in playing fundamental basketball. And sometimes, like, with men's basketball, you can have a guy that's super talented, but he does not play fundamental basketball, making good passes, making the right reads. Sometimes that's more important than just having the talent and athleticism. There is a lot of women's basketball players do a great job at fundamental basketball. Michael said, I can't wait to see her play, for sure. Michael said, I think that Zach is forcing shots too hard. He needs to put a softer touch on, especially because he is like the pro. He's like the expert at the soft touch. Like, I've seen so many shots of his hit the front of the rim, hit the backboard, and go in. You're like, how did that go in? It didn't even look like it was going to have any shot. But for sure, that is definitely a key. Michael said, Edey shot 73% last year from the line, and so far this year, he's 80%. If Zach Edey shoots 80% at the line this year, like, by the end of the season, he's still shooting 80%, that will be insane. Absolutely insane. And it will be very hard to beat Purdue, especially in the Big Ten. Very, very difficult. Steven says, I tried to get tickets to the Ohio State versus Iowa women's game here in Columbus, but it's already sold out. The Caitlin effect. People want to see Caitlin Clark shoot the ball. She is unbelievable. She has definitely earned the name of the Stephon Curry of women's college basketball. I mean, definitely. She could shoot anywhere on the floor. Michael says, oh, and as they say, you live by the 3, you're going to die with 3. Zach, they're 6 and 19 for 3 right now, which is 31%. Well, I've seen some teams this year, like there was a game Indiana played against like Army in game 2 where Army was like 11 of 40 from 3. But like they stayed in the game because they hit 11 of them. I mean, if you're shooting up a bunch of threes and all you got to do is just make sure you hit at least 30 to 35%, you're good to go. For the most part. Miles said, Yebber, how good is Ohio State going to be this year, Steven? Steven says, Lady Buckeyes are top 10 team. The men will be a work in progress. I'm not a huge Holtman fan. Yeah, Chris Holtman, I don't know how much longer he's going to be at Ohio State. I mean, he started out his career pretty well, but he was taking over for Thad Matta, but they have been going in the wrong direction. They got some talent. They just kind of seem directionless. We'll have to see. Miles says, Purdue does have a title. It's not an NCAA title. Also with Purdue, it's just the wrong matchup. Yes, I agree with that, Michael. I did read about that because a lot of Indiana fans will say, and other fans online will say Purdue doesn't have a title. But yes, they do have one, but it don't count as an NCAA title. It doesn't count as that. It's just they have a title before that. It's kind of like, when you talk about like players that, when they're saying they're one of the best NBA players, but they play in the ABA instead of the NBA for a long time. So they don't have the NBA stats. But if you combine them, they're one of the best basketball players. So Purdue has a title. You are right. Just unfortunately doesn't count as the official NCAA one. Kind of like how a lot of teams played in the NIT back in the 60s and 70s. They got an NIT title, but people don't count that as a regular title, as an NCAA title. But an NIT title back in the day meant a lot more than it does now. So it's wild. Second half is starting, though, 35-30, 19:50 to go in the second. Nembhard driving into the lane, tried to kick it to Watson, but somehow Stromer gets it, from saving it from going out of bounds. EK faking on Edey into the lane, and he loses the ball. Jones with the steal down the floor. Jones with a layup, and he lays it in. Purdue starts off the scoring in the second half with a nice give and go, 35-32, getting into the lane, getting a layup. That's what you got to do. You got to run the floor. Get your opportunities when you can. Matt Painter probably telling his team that when Gonzaga misses or they get a steal, they have to go down the floor and get ahead of the Gonzaga defense. But Nembhard responds on the other end. 37-32, 19-10 to go in the second. Nembhard with 9 points, 4 of 8 from the field. Braid Smith kicks to Jones. Over to Fletcher Lawyer, who was very quiet in that first half. Purdue needs more points from him. Braid Smith, top of the key. It's been a great matchup with him and Nembhard. Smith driving into the lane to the rim, and Smith lays it in. 37-34. That was a really good shot by Smith. Smith has been definitely the second best player on the floor besides Edey, unless you count because Smith's a perfect 5 of 5 from the field, and he's been playing better than Edey, but Edey does have more points, and they just called a first foul of the second half. I think this time it's on Purdue. Steven says, my favorite Buckeye teams when Jimmy Jackson was here. We lost to the Fab Five and the Elite Eight. Ohio State's had some good teams. Now, obviously, the Greg Oden team, the Jared Soldier team more recently, they've had some good teams. Just can't really get, all the way. 37-34, Nembhard in the lane, and Nembhard shots off the mark, and Jones down the floor for Purdue. Going up strong with the layup. His shot rolls in. It looked like it was going to blow off the rim, but it did not. What a play right there. 37-36, we got a 1-point game. 18-20 to go in the second. This is the type match that you want to see, a close game. Both teams playing well, and Braid Smith, like a football player on that play, intercepted the pass. Purdue could take the lead. Fletcher Lawyer goes up strong. He misses the shot. Now EK and Zach Edey are fighting for the ball at the top, and Purdue is the arrow. So Purdue will keep the ball. Frank says, my University of Dayton Flyers got destroyed by Houston last night. Houston's good. Houston is a really good team. And even though they're going to the Big 12 now, I think they still will have a lot of success. Obviously, they're not going to win as many games as they did in the American Conference with Kelvin Sampson, but still. Definitely going to be very interesting to see what happens with Houston, how good they are and how they adjust to playing better competition. And Dayton, they're a good team. Darren Holmes has been a really good player for 3 years, but they don't seem to have as good of a team as they did, obviously, 3 years ago with Obi Toppin. But they might be a tournament team. They have been doing better than most of the other A-10 teams. But I do appreciate you for being here, Frank, and hopefully your Dayton Flyers will start to play better basketball. But Purdue turned the basketball over going inside, and then Gonzaga went all the way down the floor. Stromer up the floor to Nembhard. Nembhard laid it in. Dusty Stromer's good. I really like his game for Gonzaga. He's definitely stepping up with Steel Venters out. That's a really good pass there. Heady play up the floor. Michael said, I will say this, though, Jeffrey. Purdue and Virginia crushed me in 2019. That was Purdue's best shot to win a national championship. He ripped their arm with a shot that forced the overtime. For sure. I mean, that was a good Purdue team. Carson Edwards was really good. And I actually thought Purdue could go all the way. That did stink. Definitely, it shows you how important having a good point guard is. It's crazy. 39-36, 17-30 to go in the second. Purdue with another turnover. Purdue's 1 of 9 from 3. Gonzaga 6 of 19. So you can definitely tell where Purdue's offense lies. It lies in the paint and at the line. Nembhard, top of the key, shoots a 3. A shot barely off the mark. EK almost tipped it in. He gets his own miss again. EK doing a great job on the glass. Stromer for 3, and his shot's in and out. That one should have gone. That's the way the basketball crumbles right there, because you talk about the one shot he had in the first half. It shouldn't have gone in, and it did. But then that shot should have gone in, and it didn't. So sometimes you win some, you lose some. Lance Jones for 3. It's good. The Southern Illinois transfer for Purdue. 39 all. What a shot. 16-40 to go in the second. Lance Jones with 9 points. He's having an underrated game for Purdue. Tie game. Nembhard with the ball. Driving in. EK. Thought about the 3. Off the dribble. Driving on Edey, kicks out to Greg, over to Stromer in the corner, and Stromer shots off the mark. Lance Jones with the board, driving down the floor. He kicks down low to Gillis. Gillis loses the ball, but they're going to call a foul on Ben Gregg. That looked like a foul, but he might have got him across the arm. Steven says, off subject, does Syracuse make a run after Deion Sanders? That program needs to be energized. They've been down to McNabb and Harrison left. Man, that's interesting, because Syracuse kept Dino Babers for a very long time, even though he wasn't winning. I made a short on it yesterday, and I talked about that. When you look at Syracuse under Dino Babers, they were 31-52 in his other 7 seasons. That was not the Eric Dungy year that they went 10-3. And then now they're going to get Deion. He's at Colorado. I mean, they're probably there's more money there probably than Syracuse. I don't know, the NIL of every school, but they wouldn't have kept Dino Babers that long if Syracuse thought that they could really hire a big-name coach. I would say that anything's possible, but very unlikely, Steven, that they're able to get Deion. Purdue split the free throw, so it was 40-39, but then on the other end, Gonzaga scored a layup. Dusty Stromer, what a play by him, 41-40. Stromer from Sherman Oaks, California, the 6'6 freshman. He was a pretty highly rated guy, a 4-star recruit, and he is definitely living up to the billing. He's got 7 points on 3 of 6. That's a great play in the lane. Almost like he got fouled by Edey, too. I don't know how he got that shot to go. Taking contact, really good play right there. He was ranked number 34 in the 2023 ESPN Top 100 recruiting ranking, so he was almost a 5-star recruit. But he is definitely providing a lift for Gonzaga in this game. They need some points any way they can get it, especially with how well Purdue is doing at getting to the line. Edey loses the ball. What a steal by Nolan Hickman down the floor. Nolan Hickman falls to the ground, and Fletcher Loyer, they call a foul on him. And both players took a tumble. I think both players are okay. But you always get worried when a guy falls on top of another guy. But Gonzaga with a 1-point lead, and it looks like they're going to be going to the line. That's a really good play by Hickman. Because Edey, when he puts the ball down low, that's when you got to steal it. Because when Edey's got the ball up high, there's no way you're going to steal it. But when you have Edey putting the ball on the deck, that's when you can swipe at it. Michael says, and not having Isaac Haas in 2018 after he broke Zola cost Purdue national championship also. Yeah, definitely a chance to get there. I 100% agree. That really hurt. And that's when they did the hook and hold rule, too, because he got hook and held, and then it broke his arm, and that's when they started doing that. But they haven't really even been enforcing that rule as much lately, so it's crazy. Michael said, no problem, Jerry, not the only one that says that. Michael said, Jerry, what is one thing that your mom or grandma makes that there's not enough of? Well, a mom definitely makes a really good green bean casserole. I will say that. It's fantastic. You know, you got the little French onion things on top of it. Some cream of mushroom and all that junk. That stuff's really good. Mixed with green beans. It's fantastic. And she makes sure everybody has enough. I will say it. So there's no fighting because people would fight over it. Will says there's so much food at Thanksgiving, but we do a football game with my family, so I guess that counts. That's crazy. That's awesome. Well, I mean, for sure. I mean, gotta watch the sports, but playing them as well. I've always gone out and, played football with some of my family on, Thanksgiving if it's not too cold. Sometimes able to throw some football, shoot some hoops. So you definitely want to get some sports in while you're watching it and eat some great food. RC says, only top sport. I only have time for women's college basketball because I enjoy it and covered a good deal too. I don't have that much time for men's college basketball unless it's big time contest or USC or Bronny. For sure. I mean, you got to be able to, I guess you would say, make content on what you're focused on the most. So like in your case, women's college basketball. With me, I try to cover, men's college basketball, football, NFL, NBA. There's a lot of other sports I'd like to do. I mean, there's so many other good things to talk about, but can't cover it all. But definitely RC, you do a fantastic job in the comment section with your comments. Always love reading your comments. So you're doing a great job over on your channel, I'm sure. But definitely, I mean, Bronny, it's going to be interesting with Bronny. Hopefully he'll be able to return and be able to play for USC this season. That was a scary thing with him. Michael says, nice. That said the yearly annual family football game where your grandma's the referee. What she says goes. Yeah, and I mean, especially if she's got a bias on one side. You want it to be, impartial and fair. If you have one team getting some of the calls going their way, that's not going to help. Jeff says, I'm here. Finally here. Interesting so far. I agree, Jeff. Really appreciate you for being here. It's going to be a good finish to this game. Right now, Gonzaga with a 1-point lead. Gonzaga's been controlling most of the game, but Purdue's been getting back in it because they've done a really good job of getting a lot of fouls on Gonzaga. And I feel like Purdue's running the floor a bit better in the second. Now, I will say it's caused Purdue to turn it over a bit more than they were, but you got Purdue doing a pretty good job of clawing their way back. They were down by around 8 to 10 points at one point in the first half. Mark Few, definitely worried about this matchup. He wants his team to win. Drinking some water on the sideline, you definitely need it in a big game like this. 15:45 to go in the second, and the game is about to start. Now they're trying to wipe some sweat off the floor. So there's already sweat on the floor they haven't wiped up before the play even happens. That shows you how intense this game is. Matt Painter, he's got a concerned look on his face as well. 15:40 to go. Hickman trying to drive on Edey. What a crossover by Nolan Hickman, and he lays it in. That's an unbelievable play. He put Zach Edey on skates. 43-40. Hickman's got 9 points, 4 of 8 shooting from the field. Now Braden Smith driving into the lane, kicks out to Gillis, over to Lance Jones, and Jones threes off the mark, but Edey with the offensive board and put back. What a play by Zach Edey. 43-42. If he's that low down in the paint, No one's getting the ball. He's got 17 points and 7 boards. Now Gonzaga turns it over. Braden Smith over to Gillis. Now almost a turnover. Stromer almost stole, but somehow Lawyer ends up with it, and Fletcher Lawyer shots off the mark, but Zach Edey tips it in. Zach Edey's becoming a problem for the Gonzaga Bulldogs. He's got 19 points and 8 boards, and Purdue's in front for the first time in a while, 44-43. Hickman driving into the lane again, and he goes up. Almost got it over Edey, but he can't, and now Zach Edey 1 board away from a double-double. Lance Jones down the floor, goes up strong, and he misses. Huff with the board. I will say that Purdue's doing a much better job running the floor. Like I said, they're doing a great job. You got to put pressure on the defense by trying to score on them before they're set. It's really helping for sure with why they're in the lead. And Edey's doing a great job boxing out. In the corner, Nembhard for 3. His shots off the mark. And Edey, he's got that double-double. 10 boards for Edey. Braden Smith to Lawyer. He loses the ball. Nembhard back the other way. This looks like an NBA game with the amount of up and down the floor that we have. Nembhard over to Huff. Huff's 3 short. Smith with the board. And now Purdue slowing it back down. Probably a smart move by Braden Smith. It looks like both teams are kind of gassed. 13:40 to go in this top 15 matchup in the Maui Invitational. Lance Jones for 3. His shot's off the mark. Purdue is really struggling to shoot from the outside. Edey almost got the offensive board, but he could not. 13:30 to go in the second. Nolan Hickman over to Huff. To Nembhard. Nembhard top of the key. Over to Ben Gregg, and Gregg's 3's off the mark, and Braden Smith's gone for the board, the shortest guy on the floor, doing a great job on the glass. Lance Jones gets the ball from Braden Smith, and that was all set up by Braden Smith. What a pass. What a finish. 46-43. 13-14 to go in the second. Lance Jones with 11 points now, and Mark Few, he's seen enough. He calls timeout. That's a really, really good play right there by Braden Smith, because if he holds that ball and he tries to go and score the basketball on his own, he might get fouled. But the fact that he was able to pass that ball up the floor through traffic, get it to Jones, that's what set up that play and why they were able to get that bucket. And Gonzaga, the team that was playing quicker than Purdue in the first half, that's reversed. If Purdue can play like this in the Big Ten, and they can play like this in the NCAA tournament, they will advance far. Because you have to be able to run the floor. You have to outrun the other team, out-hustle the other team, and they're doing a good job. Michael says, Jeffrey, you surprised that Maryland isn't ranked in the top 25. Well, if you're talking about basketball, because I don't think you're talking about football. Football's been strong. If you're talking about Maryland basketball, I'm not surprised because of the fact they've already lost to a couple teams that they shouldn't have. They lost to UAB, I think. So that's why they're not ranked right now. They'll have to turn it around. Miles says, hey, Jeff, how you doing today? Sir Jeff says, great. How about you? Appreciate you both being here. It's going to be an awesome finish. I hope all you guys have a happy Thanksgiving week. Michael said, I'm hanging in there getting ready for the Iron Bowl on Saturday. Man, the Iron Bowl is going to be fun. I know Auburn just lost to New Mexico State, so that's probably put a damper on this match. If Auburn had won that game, they'd be 7-4. People would be saying this is the best, record Auburn's had in a long time in the Iron Bowl. Maybe they'll be able to knock off Alabama. They lose to New Mexico State, so some people are like, nah, it's not going to be a good game. But I do think that it could still be a very competitive game. I do think it will be a competitive game because it always is. It always is a competitive game between those two teams. I mean, it should be. I mean, they're rivals, and rivals always should be competitive. RC, the Maryland Lakes aren't ranked in the top 25 for the first time in 13 years. Oh, so that's probably what Michael was talking about. Yeah, Maryland, when they lost Angel Reese to LSU, that hurt. Like, they were in the top 10. And when she transferred to LSU, it has seemed like Maryland's kind of slipped some. We'll have to see if they can get back in the top 25. That's crazy. RC says, Arnold taking unless you already got them, Steven. I had the hookup with other Iowa fans who didn't forget about me. That's funny. That's hilarious. Miles said, Jeff, I will say this Bama's margin of error is 0, but something to tell me it's going to be a good game on Saturday. Yeah, I think they'll beat Auburn. I mean, anything can happen in rivalry games. Like Washington State could beat Washington, even though it's not likely, but you never know. I mean, rivalry games are weird. That's why they're awesome, because you throw the records out the door, anything can happen. But the problem is that Alabama's margin is 0. So They beat Auburn, it doesn't matter. They have to beat Georgia. If they just beat Auburn and then lose to Georgia, they're not going to make the playoff. Everyone knows that. They have to beat Georgia. If they win out, Alabama's in. I don't think anybody's saying if Alabama beats Georgia, they're not in. They're going to be in. It's going to be wild, though, to see what happens with Texas. Can they win out and get in? About Washington and Oregon. Louisville, people are talking about them. I think Louisville's chances are like nil. They'd have to have everything go their way, but you never know. Basketball's back on. Anton Watson with 3 fouls. Ben Gregg with 3 fouls. EK top of the key. His three's off the mark. But Gregg with the board, fighting down low. And is there a top? They are going to call a top. So it's 46-43. Gonzaga had the possession here, but both teams are fighting on the boards. Gregg had it, but he dribbled it off his leg. If he had just kept the ball high, he would have been able to get it to Nembhard, and they could have gone off the floor. But that was a mistake right there by Ben Gregg putting the ball on the deck. Nembhard, top of the key. Kicks it down low to EK. There's a double team. Back out to Nembhard. Nembhard thought about a step-back three. He's trying to drive in the lane. 4 seconds. EK for 3. And he misses again. And Anton Watson is fouled by Purdue. So Purdue in this half is 3 fouls and Gonzaga is 3 fouls. So Gonzaga is doing a better job of not fouling. But that's also probably why Zach Edey's been having more success too. Michael says, Frank, how good are the Flyers going to be in the A-10 this year and who's the team to beat? I would say that Dayton's the team to beat, and the A-10 doesn't have a lot of great teams so far, it seems. I mean, it could be wrong. Maybe there are more teams emerge, but it looks like Dayton's the best team. Nembhard driving into the lane, and there's another foul on Purdue. 4 fouls on Purdue, 3 fouls on Gonzaga. Very interesting right here. Usually Purdue always has fewer fouls than their opponent, but not right now. 6 of 28 from 3 from Gonzaga, 2 of 12 from Purdue. Gonzaga has to start knocking some threes down. They are struggling on the outside. Hickman's shot is in and out, and the ball almost went out of bounds, but Trey Kaufman-Renn, he saves it from going out. That's crazy. Nolan Hickman had a really good play there, but he just could not get the shot to fall. Purdue up the floor. Braid Smith has it. Braid Smith down low for a massive dunk. What a play. Fantastic play by Braid Smith in Purdue. There was a guy in the stands that was very happy that Purdue got that alley-oop to go. Graham Ike, though, on the other end responds. That's a good play. 48-45. 11:40 to go in the second half. We're probably going to have a good finish to this one. This could be a one-possession game either way. EK with 12 points, 5 of 8 from the field. Gonzaga just cannot foul out. Edey with the ball, holding the ball over his head. Finally gets a single coverage play. EK with great defense. What defense from EK? Gonzaga down 3 with the ball. Anton Watson down the floor. Spin move. Kicks to Gregg. Outside to Nembhard. Nembhard with a step back. Thought about it. Kicks to EK. And EK wisely does not shoot that shot because of the fact that he's been strong, but I think he might have stepped out because Nembhard hit the 3, but they're not giving it to him. They are not giving him the 3. Very interesting play right there. I think Graham Ike had to step out. I did not see what happened. But other than that, there's no other reason why the play couldn't have counted because there was no foul. So Purdue catches a break right there. 48-45 in the Maui Invitational. Purdue can get a big win here to stay at number 2 in college basketball, right behind the Kansas Jayhawks for now, until they have more tough opponents in the Maui tournament that they can still lose to. But if Purdue loses this game, they're not going to stay at number 2, even if they won the rest of their Maui games. They probably would fall to maybe 5 or 6, depending on what other teams do. But this would be a huge win for Purdue and their resume. We'll have to see what happens. It's going to be interesting. Will says, Frank, I hope my VCU Rams will play better when Sean Barstow comes back. VCU Dayton games are always fun. Yeah, VCU and Dayton are probably the 2 biggest brands in the A-10. I know Rhode Island had success with Hurley, but now Rhode Island's kind of struggling with Archie Miller. But VCU, I mean, they look like they could be decent here. Obviously, they've already lost to a team that they should have beaten. But Grant, to your point, Sean Barstow's out. But they're going to have, no more bad losses, and they're going to have to start racking up some decent wins, or VCU's not going to have any shot at an at-large bid, and they're going to have to win the A-10, which is always possible. But we'll have to see. Michael says, is VCU and Dayton the picks to win the A-10 this year, and are they going to crumble like they did last year at the end of the season? I would say that those are the two favorites. I just don't think any other team is really that good in the conference. Frank says, well, Notre Dame VCU is very good. Will and VCU is very good. They always beat my Dayton team. Yeah, but Dayton, for most years, like when they play VCU, there hasn't really been a massive advantage. Like the one year, I don't remember what the Obi Toppin teams did that year. I can't remember. But VCU and Dayton usually are very close in talent level. And VCU does have a good home atmosphere. But there's a good shot if Dayton plays really hard that they could be able, to win, against them this year. Michael said, Jeffrey, I have to say that Jones is fast, and I can't wait to see him play in person when they play against Arizona on December 16th. That said, I can't wait to see Purdue play Bama and Toronto also. Yeah, that's going to be awesome, especially for Zach Edey, being from Toronto. That's probably why they scheduled that game. And then the Arizona game is going to be a lot of fun as well because of the fact Caleb Love's doing a good job out there, and Arizona is a pretty quick team. But to your point, Michael, Lance Jones is going to be a key player for Purdue because Purdue's lacked speed. Last year, Fletcher Loyer, Braden Smith, while they were a good backcourt, they didn't have the speed to keep up with a lot of teams. And I feel like Lance Jones might be able to provide, more of that speed that they need to get down the floor to be able to score before the defense gets set. Every team needs a player like that. Maybe Lance Jones can be that spark plug player that Purdue has lacked, that Purdue has not had. You can count Ivy. Jay Nivey is that. But Jay Nivey, he was only there, 2 years. And the first year he was there, he was very flawed. He got a lot better in sophomore year than he was out of there. Maybe Lance Jones can kind of be that for Purdue this year, and that can help elevate their play where they'll be a better team this year than they've been, in the previous couple years and be able to advance further in the tournament. Michael says 3 fouls on EK, which is huge. Definitely, if Gonzaga gets in foul trouble, Purdue definitely can win. Will said they have the best player, but Duquesne is getting a lot of hype too. Yeah, Duquesne has not been good in a while, so that would be crazy for the A-10 to have Duquesne playing well. 11 to go in the second half. Purdue with the ball up 3. Can they extend their lead? Trey Kaufman-Renn on EK. Edey's not in the game. Trey Kaufman-Renn's shot is good. The junior doing everything he possibly can to improve for the Purdue Boilermakers, and that was a shot that he probably would not have made a year or two ago. That's a really good play right there. 50-45. 5-point lead, and Gonzaga has really stalled on offense in the second half. They need buckets. Where are they going to come from? Nembhard kicks to Hickman, who had a really good first half. EK, with no Edey in the game, can EK get going? Outside to Nembhard. Driving in the lane. 3 seconds left. Nembhard for 2. His shot is off the mark, but an offensive rebound. I thought, but no, it's going to Purdue. It looked like when it got tapped out, Gonzaga was going to get it, but Purdue had a man there. 10 to go in the second half. Purdue in control, up by 5. Caleb first. He has the ball. Give and go to Lance Jones, and Lance Jones for 2. I'm telling you, Lance Jones is the difference right now. His speed is, he's outrunning Gonzaga, which is hard to do. Gonzaga's got some quick players. Nolan Hickman in the lane to Anton Watson. That's a good play and 1. Ethan Mort should not have fouled on that play. You cannot foul once you give a guy that much, that deep of a play there. When he gets a back screen, you just cannot foul. Definitely a mistake by Ethan Morton. You have to let him go. He had the backdoor cut. He was basically ahead of him. He just outran him on the play. I understand you want to be able to prevent a guy from scoring easy because that will make Matt Painter upset, but it's going to make Matt Painter even more upset that he fouled. But Watson does miss the free throw, so it's not going to cost him. And then you've got a foul on Huff. He fouled Trey Kaufman-Renn. 9:56 to go in the second, 52-47. The Boilers having a hard time right now shooting the basketball, but they're not having a hard time picking up fouls on Gonzaga, and they're doing a really good job driving into the lane, particularly Lance Jones in the second half. And he's doing it again. He kicks to Trey Kaufman-Renn. What a play by Lance Jones. Maybe you don't need the three-point shot to win big games right now, at least early in the season. Purdue's going to have to get better shooting the basketball if they want to be a legit title contender, but right now they're not needing it. 14-4 run from Purdue. Anton Watson with the ball. He drives, and there's a foul on Caleb first. He did not set his feet, and that prevented him from getting the charge call. But that play right there from Lance Jones, driving into the teeth of the defense, and then Trey Kaufman-Renn with the awareness to be able to pump fake and then go up. But that's a really good play. Nice pickup for Matt Painter to get Lance Jones. 9:25 to go. Gonzaga down by 7. Michael says Sean Barstow is the preseason A-10 player of the year. That shows you how important that he will be for VCU if he comes back. That's big. Lance Jones with 13 for Purdue. Hickman driving in, and there's a turnover. Gonzaga with another mistake. 9:10 to go in the second. Lance Jones with the basketball. And another turnover, this time by Purdue. Hickman up the floor. Hickman shots off the mark. Caleb first with the board. That's a big momentum swing back to Purdue. Gonzaga with the steal, a chance to cut it to 5, and they miss. Things are not going Gonzaga's way right now. 8:50 to go in the second. Trey Kaufman, he loses it. Maybe the momentum can go back Gonzaga's way. Nolan Hickman down the floor, and then he's blocked by Purdue. Ball out of bounds. Both teams are playing incredible defense. That's why it's a low-scoring game right now. 54-47 with only 8:44 to go in the game. Every time a guy goes in the lane and puts the ball on the deck, there's a steal, and then a lot of blocks are happening right now. It's been a pretty clean game for the most part, outside of a lot of the fouls that you talk about early. But, man, this is fantastic defense from both teams. EK on the block, trying to go up over first, and he does off the glass. 54-49. That's a good play. Very good play by Graham EK, showing off the spin move. And he has some decent sneaky speed. And with Edey out, it's a lot easier for him to score. We'll see how long the Matt Painter leaves Edey on the bench. Driving in, Trey Kaufman-Renn up over Huff, and he scores. Trey Kaufman-Renn's taken over. What a play. 56-49. He's got 6 points in the last few minutes. None in the first half. That's when you want to emerge is in the second half. That's when you want to play your best basketball. Ryan Nembhard, top of the key. Trying to drive on Morton. Ethan Morton kicks. He rotated on defense, and he tried to draw a charge. He really did, but Ethan Morton was not able to get the stop there. That's a really good dunk. Fantastic pass. Gonzaga cuts it to 5. I credit Ethan Morton for leaving his man and going to the other man, but if he had stayed on his one guy and left the big down low, I don't know if that would have happened. 56-51. Trey Kaufman-Renn driving on EK with a turnaround up over the shoulder, and he's not able to get the shot to fall, and the ball is off of Purdue. Purdue thought it was off of Anton Watson's hands, but nope, they're going to say it was off of Purdue. 56-51. The under 8 timeout. We're going to have a great finish on our hands in the Maui Tournament. This game has lived up to the billing. Maybe there hasn't been as much offense as one would like, but the defense has been there. Both teams playing really hard on the defensive side of the ball. Got to give credit where credit is due for sure. I mean, when you're looking at both of these teams, it is a contrasting style of plays, but it's not as contractual as it used to be, because Gonzaga has always been a quicker team than Purdue, and that would help a team like Gonzaga, you would think, be able to win this game. Purdue has that size advantage. They have the free throw advantage with the fouls getting Edey to the line, but Lance Jones, the emergence of him as a transfer coming into Purdue and his speed that he's offering, it's opening up the floor for Purdue. Not only for him to go down the floor and lay it in, because he's had a few of those, but then he's able to go out there, and when a guy rotates over to try to stop him, he can pass to his teammates. And a guy like Trey Kaufman-Renn, very impressive play that he's had the last few minutes, especially now with Edey on the bench getting a breather. If Purdue can get more production from a guy like him, maybe if Caleb first can step up, it's going to make Purdue very dangerous. Steven says, great show as usual, Jeff. I'm going over to Mark Rogers' page to talk trash to Cheaty, Michigan. Have a great holiday. I appreciate that, Steven. I'm not sure when I'll be going live again for a basketball game, but definitely there will be some fantastic matchups this week. If I'll have time, maybe I'll try to do another one soon, but I don't know when. But appreciate that, Steven. I hope you have a great Thanksgiving as well. Michael's at home before you leave, Steven. You just got a 256-ounce glass of tea. That's hilarious. Michael also said, I'm getting ready to leave in a few for March stream also, but I will try to get back to catch the end of the stream. Jeff, appreciate that, Michael. Appreciate you for being here. Hope your Boilers do a good job the rest of the game. Champy says, Arizona both these Fry Arizona equal real number 1 team in the nation. What about Kansas? I don't know if you're still here, champion, or not, but I really appreciate you for stopping by. But definitely, Kansas has an argument to be the best team. And I do think that Arizona has an argument. I don't know. I mean, Purdue, again, they look better this year, though. I mean, this game isn't over, and we'll have to see. Maybe things change. Maybe Gonzaga can come back and win the game. But I will say that I am impressed with how they've looked, especially with Lance Jones in the second half driving. Purdue looks quicker, and that's good. Jeff says turkey and mashed potatoes and plenty of sport with family, can't beat it. Yes, the best time of year, Jeff, the best time of year. If you're a sports fan, if you love spending time with family and friends, it's awesome. You got college basketball and college football is coming on later this week. The NFL, the NBA is even on. You got it all for everybody that loves watching a sport, a particular type of sport. If you're a baseball fan, that isn't on, but still, everything else is on. It's awesome for sure. Will says to Michael, I think it's Darren Holmes from Dayton, but Sean will have a great year when he gets back. Yeah, Darren Holmes been really good. Michael says, Jeffrey, what makes this so bad is that there's going to be a great team that goes home with 2 losses. Yeah, for sure. It stinks. The Maui Tournament has so many great teams, but somebody's got to lose the games. It just means, that you're not as good as opponents you play, or you just didn't play well enough in that game against that team. Maybe you'll play better later in the year against a better opponent. Like if Purdue loses, they'll have some matchups left. Gonzaga loses, they can still get some wins. EK for 3 is shots off the mark. Watson with the offensive rebound. He misses the shot. Huff with the board. Now it's on the floor, and they're going to call a foul on Purdue. I don't know if it's on Edey, you would think, or it could be on Mason Gillis. You would think it might be on Edey, but it's hard to tell. There was like 7 guys down there. Man, that was intense. Couldn't even tell what was going on. But Huff is going to the line for a 1-and-1. Purdue's already in the bonus. Gonzaga only has 4 fouls. Purdue's 10-13 at the line. Gonzaga 1-3. But Huff's free throws off the mark. You got to make your free throws. You have to be able to hit him in clutch points. That's a big miss for Gonzaga. They could have used those 2 points to cut it to a 1-possession game. Zach Edey with 19 points and 11 boards. 6:50 to go in the second. Edey on the block. Out to Lawyer. Gillis turns the basketball over. Nembhard to Watson. Watson slows down, lays it in. Fundamental basketball by Anton Watson. Let your man blow by and get the shot to fall. 56-53. That's a really good play right there. Braden Smith bringing up that. And that's only Anton Watson's first field goal of the game. He only has 2 points. Almost a foul on Nembhard. Braden Smith in the mid-range. Kicks to Lawyer. And a turnover, almost a turnover, but Dusty Stromer lost the basketball. Mark Few is furious. He had it, but he lost it. Got to hold on to the ball. Gillis kicks to Edey down low, and there's a foul on EK. That has to be EK's 4th. If that's EK's 4th foul, that's going to put Gonzaga in a bit of a pickle, and it is his 4th foul. He's got 14 points and 4 fouls. He tried, but he just, I don't know. Like he might have put his arm a bit underneath Edey's arm, and that's what picked up the foul. But if EK fouls out, it's going to be very hard for Gonzaga to win this game. Gonzaga with 5 fouls, Purdue with 7, but Purdue's lived at the strike. I don't know if that's a foul on a shot, though. I don't think it is. So it's going to be Purdue inbound the ball, but Mark Few's leaving EK in. He cannot foul, though. And Nolan Hickman knocks the ball out of Edey's hands, but it still will be Purdue ball. Fletcher Lawyer to inbound. Dusty Stromer guard him, kicks it outside to Miles Colvin. Over to Mason Gillis. He thought about the 3. He's got to take that, you would think. He was open. Kicks to Edey down low, but hey, you don't want to take the 3 sometimes when you got a guy like that. Zach Edey with 21 points, 7-14 from the field. He scores again. Hickman down low. He misses. Colvin with the board. Purdue up 5 with the ball. Gonzaga in a bit of trouble. In foul trouble. Down by 5. Smith up the floor. And his shot is good and 1. Unbelievable play by Braden Smith. How did he get that shot to go? Wow. That is a fantastic play right there by Braden Smith. He went up over Nembhard, off the glass, got the roll, and the foul. Gonzaga is in big trouble. They're not done yet. There's still time for Gonzaga to come back. Mark Few has such a well-coached, disciplined team that they're not out of this game. But they're definitely running out of time. Braden Smith with 12 points and 4 assists. 6 of 7 from the field. He's been playing well. He's been playing really, really well. He's a sophomore now, and he had a great freshman year. Really good freshman year, but it just looks like some of the shots he's taking, he knows when he has to score, and that is one of the biggest developments that a player can have is when they know the best time to score and when's the best time to pass. And this season, he's averaging 11 points and 8 assists. Those are great stats, and he hits that free throw to boot to finish off that three-point play. It's 61-53. 5:40 to go in the second. Up the floor, Nembhard kicks over to Watson, over to Huff, and he misses another three. And this is going to be what causes Gonzaga the game. They're shooting a horrendous percentage from three. They've shot in a lot of them, and they're not making a lot of them. Fletcher Loyer from the outside, his three's an air ball. Fletcher Loyer, I will say, is struggling in this game. He has really struggled. Fletcher Loyer, I don't know how many points he has, but he's not shooting well from the outside. And that was the big thing that kept him on the floor last year for Purdue. He did shoot pretty well from three. He's one of the only guys for Purdue that shot a decent percentage from the outside, but he's struggling in this game. But no one's struggling to shoot as well as Gonzaga is from outside. Gonzaga is really having a hard time hitting threes. Nembhard misses a three, but he gets his own miss. Nembhard in the lane, and Nembhard misses again. Shots are just not falling for Gonzaga. 61-53, and Loyer only has 2 points. So a big key contributor for Purdue with only 2 points, and they're up 8. And Edey has 21 points and 12 boards. Braden Smith over to Gillis. Gillis with the fake. Gillis driving in, and there's a turnover. Bad mistake by Gillis. Anton Watson bringing it up. Gonzaga needs points in a hurry. Watson down the floor, and he lays it in. That's a good play. Cuts it to 6. 61-55. 4:33 to go in the second. There's a timeout by Mark Few. He wants to talk it over with his team. Yeah, Michael says, Jerry, I was talking about Maryland's women's team for sure. Sorry about that. Then he says, Purdue is not giving the Zags the combination for the lot that is on the basket. Yeah, I agree. And that's why Gonzaga's settling for threes. It's kind of one of those things where when you have a guy like Edey, it's not necessarily just intimidation to go in the paint, but sometimes it's the inability to go in the paint. And you can tell watching Gonzaga that when he's down there, they can't, get layups, very easy layups to fall. So especially once they've fallen behind, because you can tell when Gonzaga was winning this game in the first half, they were more willing to go inside and take a chance, with Zach Edey down there. But now EK has 4 fouls. You don't want him to pick up an offensive foul on the block. And then you talk about that you're losing. And when you're losing and you have Zach Edey down there, it makes you want to shoot more. Especially when they're open. And some of these threes, to be completely fair, have been open. It's crazy. It absolutely is crazy. But Purdue has left Gonzaga open at times. And they just haven't hit the shots. Like a guy like Dusty Stromer, he's going to get better the older he gets. I believe that. He's a good player. And I feel like, the longer that he is with, Gonzaga, he's going to improve. Like a lot of Mark Few guys do. But Nembhard, he had a good first half shooting, and so did Nolan Hickman, but they've gone cold. Nembhard has gone cold in the second. And since EK's in foul trouble, he's just not doing as much down low. And Edey's starting to dominate the glass. And that's what's been the difference. Michael says 4 on EK now. Yes, definitely. He has 4 fouls now, and he's out of the game right now. Few's taking him out, so they're going to have to hope that Ben Gregg and Huff can take care of it on the block. Down low, Edey. He's being double-teamed. Kicks to Braden Smith. Braden Smith in the mid-range. Kicks to Miles Coleman for 3, and if that shot had fallen, that might have been almost it for Gonzaga. It would have felt like, momentum-wise. But they can't get the rebound. Gonzaga can't get the board. And now Edey has it. Fantastic by Zach Edey. Being able to get that board. And now Anton Watson has 4 fouls. Jeff says Indiana wins. What a game for Hoosier fan. Indiana beat Louisville 74-66. So that means they covered as well because of the fact Indiana was only favored by 7 in this game. And they were down at multiple points. But Indiana found a way. That's crazy. Talk about more of that during the under 4 timeout. But Zach Edey hits the first free throw. So it's 62-55. Matt Painter, you can tell he's feeling pretty good about his team, but he knows that Gonzaga is not an easy team to put away. Zach Edey, his second free throw is good. He's really worked on the line, and that's going to be a problem for teams in the Big Ten. A massive problem. If you have guys like, in the Big Ten, like Khalil Ware trying to guard, Zach Edey, some of the other bigs in the Big Ten, Cliff Moore, it's going to be very difficult to be able to not foul Zach Edey. And if you do foul him, he's going to hit the free throws. It's going to make Purdue have a massive matchup advantage. 63-55. Smith to Colvin in the corner. His shot is good. That might be the game. It's not over yet. You never want to call it, but that might be the game for Purdue. Miles Colvin in the corner, feeling confident. 66-55. And Mark Few uses his last timeout, his last gasp for the Bulldogs. They are in big trouble. Zach Edey with 23 points and 14 boards, dominating on the glass. Gonzaga struggling to shoot the ball, and now Miles Colvin, the freshman, knocks down a big triple in the left corner, and Purdue feeling really good right now, 66-55 over Gonzaga. But yes, back to Indiana for a sec. Indiana was up 34-29.5, but then they were down by like 7. It was like 58-51. But then they were able to come back around. Louisville's a better team this year. Louisville is a really decent team. But for Indiana, the leading scorers, you had Xavier Johnson with 14 points, Khalil Ware at 12, Malik Renew at 12 as well, and Baco 4, Galloway 2, Peyton Sparks at 9, Anthony Walker at 11. So they got some bench points as well. That's key for Indiana. They really need bench points. It's something they really struggle with. But then you look at the Louisville side. They got some talent. Scott Clark, the Illinois transfer, at 19, Trey White at 10. They didn't get enough from Mike James. He only had 8 points. Brennan Huntley, half of the Tennessee transfer, only had 6. So a really good game for Indiana to get the win over Louisville. They moved to 4-1. Louisville falls to 2-3 in the Empire Classic. Now you're going to have the game later between UConn and Texas in the Empire Classic championship game. That's going to be an interesting game as well. But we've got 3:45 left in the second half in this Maui tournament game. Purdue-Gonzaga, top 15 matchup in Purdue. Right now looking the part of a top team. Again, it's always hard to gauge, though, with Purdue because they start the year out well, and then they do great in the Big Ten, and then they struggle in the tournament. It's just like Tennessee. Tennessee does the same thing with Rick Barnes. They always win early, but then they fall apart when they get to the tournament later on in the season. So Purdue looking good now. I do believe Lance Jones' addition is big for Purdue. He's done a good job pushing the pace. Braden Smith looks like a more mature guard. He's doing a great job. They need to get Fletcher Loyer going, though. If Purdue wants to reach their utmost potential, they need to get Fletcher Loyer going. But Zach Edey, a beast like always. Purdue dominating the free throw line. They're getting to the line a lot more than Gonzaga is. And Gonzaga, the tide turn once they stop being able to make shots. Longest active regular season non-conference win streak, Purdue 27, UConn 16, and Arizona 16. Last loss December 8, 2020 versus Miami. That's what I'm saying. Purdue always does well in the non-con, but they got to win in the tournament. Last 2 years, again, lost to St. Peter's, North Texas, Fairleigh Dickinson. That has to change for people to really respect Purdue. But this is a big win for the Boilers that they presumably are going to get over Gonzaga if they can hold on for the last 3:30 of the game. But Mark Few, I'm sure, has some tricks up his sleeve. And right there, Nolan Hickman driving in. Maybe it's not over yet. 66-57, 9-point game. Purdue, though, really good slowing things down. We'll see if they can pull out the big win in the Maui tournament, move on to the next game to try to get to the championship game. Colvin for another 3. Miles Colvin is confident, the freshman. In-state kid, 69-57, 3:05 to go. 2 big shots from him, and then there's a turnover. Caleb First for the dunk. 71-57. Gonzaga's turning it over too much. Gonzaga's not hitting their threes. They're not getting to the free throw line. This is a struggle bus for the Bulldogs. Largest lead of the game for Purdue. Nembhard kicks to Anton Watson. 2:40 to go. Dusty Stromer in the corner. They're running out of time. And there's an offensive foul on Stromer. Trying to push off to get some separation on Braden Smith, and he did not need to do that. That's tough. That's a tough foul right there, a foul that they did not need. And Caleb of first, punching it off with that steal with the dunk. And they're showing there's a Purdue fan that's really excited about his Boilers, the way they're playing in the stands. 71-57, and Purdue's just eating the clock. And Gonzaga's not doing anything about it. So it looks like they might run out of time. Lance Jones with the ball, who's been great in this second half for Purdue. Lance Jones, he does turn it over, though. Made a mistake there. Gonzaga up the floor. Anton Watson driving in. He lays it up and in. 71-59. 2 to go in the second. Inbounds it to Braden Smith. As long as Purdue doesn't turn it over and they eat this shot clock, they're in great shape. Under 2 to go in this big Maui tournament game. I appreciate all you guys for being here. It's been a blast. It's been a pretty good game. Purdue's pulled away in the end, but for the most part, it was a close game. Lance Jones in the corner. Kicks out to Braden Smith. $1:40 left. Lance Jones for 3. His shot's in and out. EK with the board. Gonzaga down 12. They got to push the ball up the floor. Ryan Nembhard. 90 seconds left. Nembhard driving in. There's a turnover. Caleb first with the turnover. Gonzaga's just getting sloppy. It looks like they're trying to rush too much, which you can't blame them because they're losing, but you have to take care of the basketball. Braden Smith dribbling out. All of the Purdue fans on their feet. And number 2, Purdue, they're going to beat number 11, Gonzaga, to move on in the Maui Invitational. Gonzaga will have to play in a consolation game because they all play 3 games. Colvin, he misses the shot. Gonzaga with the board, but there's only a minute left. Watson with the ball, and that is a travel by him. Jackson says, oh, man, Purdue's getting out the belt, spanking the Zags. Good grief. Yeah, that's a good win for Purdue. I mean, again, you can't really necessarily say Purdue is among the elite until they go far in the tournament, but this is impressive. Purdue dominating the non-conference again over a big team in Gonzaga. A really good win for Purdue. It's going to age really well on the resume as long as Gonzaga has a good season and they don't lose games in the West Coast Conference. It'll be a big resume win for Purdue. Purdue has not lost the non-conference games in 2020. So they've been great in that regard, but they've also lost early in the tournament the last year. That's got to change for the Boilers. 59 seconds left, and all the Purdue fans are all smiles. They're getting an early Thanksgiving Day feast with a big win over Gonzaga, and the Bulldogs, they're going to have to bounce back and be able to turn it around tomorrow with whoever they play. Braden Smith with the ball at the top of the key. They took Zach Edey out, and he gets a standing O for his performance. Braden Smith in the lane. He misses the shot. Huff with the board. I mean, Zach Edey had like 25 points and like 15 rebounds. He was unbelievable. Had a fantastic game. He could not be stopped. Down the floor, Dusty Stromer goes up strong, and I think there's a foul, and that's not going to make Matt Painter happy. You cannot foul. He would rather you give up the layup than foul. 37 seconds left. 71-59. Zach Edey smiling on the sideline for a job well done. He did a great job. I mean, he's a big reason they won, but I will admit that Lance Jones and Braden Smith were also a part of it. It's not just Zach Edey. It's not just a one-man show. He's coming back into the game. Matt Painter just making sure. But Purdue has some other weapons out there. Lance Jones, the Southern Illinois transfer, is going to be a key component of their team this year. And if Braden Smith continues to play well at point guard, Purdue will be dangerous. Now, they need Fletcher Loyer to improve on his play. He struggled in this game, but they didn't need him to. Gonzaga got an awful performance from the floor, and that's going to be enough to help Purdue get the win. It's 71-61 after Gonzaga hits both free throws. Gonzaga not fouling. They're letting this clock run out. So it is mathematically impossible for the Bulldogs to come back. Purdue, again, all of their fans are on their feet. 15 seconds left in the game. Braden Smith kicks over to Fletcher Loyer. 10 seconds left. He kicks it down to Edey, who scores again. Edey just adds to his total. 73-61, and that's going to be it. Unless Gonzaga takes another shot before it's over, which they do, and there's a foul. Why would you foul with 1 second left? It's absolutely over. I mean, either Gonzaga, you dribble it out, or you just take a shot, but no, Purdue fouls with 1 second left. The most inconsequential foul ever. The game is over, even if Gonzaga scores the 2. But, I mean, hey, I guess you got to give Purdue credit for defending until the end. But, man, that foul was unnecessary. Gonzaga's first free throw is up, and it's good, so it's 73-62. So if they had another free throw, it will be a 10-point game, which they do. So it's 73-63, and that's the game. Purdue wins. They get a top 15 win over Gonzaga. They'll move on to the Maui Tournament. Gonzaga falls to 2-1. Purdue moves to 4-0. What a performance from Matt Painter's team. They got to prove it in the tournament, but they're proving it right now, doing a fantastic job. What a performance from the Boilers. Wisconsin's up over Virginia 28-18. That's a big performance there. Jackson, if you'd like to see more hot take from Jeff from Only Talk Sports, tune into Twitter and give him a follow. Twitter, Only Talk Sports. Appreciate that, Jackson. Definitely, I do a lot of takes over on Twitter. And I also make videos every single day. So like the stream down below. Subscribe to the channel if you guys are new. Share the stream out on social media. But most importantly, thank you guys for being here. I hope you guys have a great Thanksgiving week. I don't know when I'll be live streaming next, but I will do more basketball games when I can. But I appreciate you guys for being here. Jeff says I agree with Jack's support. Only Talk Sports channel is awesome. Appreciate that. And Jackson plugging my channel as well. I really appreciate that, Jackson. You guys are the best. Let's get Only Talk Sports to 2,000 subs. Appreciate that, Jackson. Right now, we're at 1,527, so we got a little ways to go, but with you guys' support, that is definitely achievable. I really appreciate you guys. You guys are the best. I'll be back soon for more live streams. I'll be making more videos throughout the week as well, but appreciate you guys for being here, and what a win for Purdue over the Gonzaga Bulldogs.